Hello there, this is another video where we'll be explaining a game. This time it's an online game called Geoguessr, and anybody who's unfamiliar with Geoguessr, this is my account and this is what people see once they log into the Geoguessr website, geoguessr.com. This is my avatar and you can see there are various things that people can do. People can do a single player campaign where they go around the world. They can play classic maps around the world to see how good they are at certain countries, and they can do community maps as well that have been provided by the community, and they can go on streaks as well. So there are various multiplayer options, duels, team duels and battles that we'll see a bit later on, party modes that you can invite people to your own party. There's an online quiz as well, which is just a general knowledge quiz, and community maps. There's a shop as well where you can buy the latest upgrades, and unfortunately there used to be a coin thing. You have to go into the coin shop to collect that, but now you can just do it from the main menu. So every week there will be upgrades going on, usually every week, to these specials that you can buy for currency, and you can earn currency just by playing the game. You can see this one's worth 8,000, and you can see this one, I partially own it, and you can see I've got 17,000 currency currently in the bank, which I've earned through playing the game. You can buy all kinds of things, and in the avatar shop you have to click on view all, unfortunately, and that will tell you any specials that are going on that week. And you can change the hat and the body, and you can buy whatever you want, and then once you've done all that you can then equip those things on your own adventurer, which is a matter of clicking on edit avatar there, and then you can change the skin colour, of which you can only have 4 in this game, and you can change the head. There's no male and female, you can just change the hair, and you can change the beard, you can change the eyes so they're slightly female and male looking, and you can change the mouth as well, so it's pretty androgynous. You can fit any sunglasses. This monocle I've earned through playing the game, and the hats as well, that one and that one I earned through playing the game. This one I bought, and that one I got as a bundle, the Robin Hood bundle, which I'm wearing at the moment. So you can change the character during the game, and you can earn different things. Let's just claim this one. I've earned 40 coins. That's now 17,335, I think that says. And so that means that we are now level 63 in the game, which isn't amazing. We're now a 2 stripe, which means we are a newbie. We've got 2 stars, it looks like, but we are an advanced newbie in the game. What do you do in Geoguessr? Well, for one thing, we can guess where we are. So in this streak mode it gives us 2 minutes to find out where we are just by looking around at the map. You can see by these skier poles we're probably in Canada, and by looking at the architecture and looking at the cars, looking at the license plates or lack of, we can look at the signs, we can look at the bins. You can see the signs are green, and you can see it might even have the name of the place written on utility vehicles or vehicles that you can simply zoom in on. Unfortunately in America and Canada they usually use .com, which doesn't tell you anything, but it says made in the US, so maybe we are in Canada, maybe we are in the US, so let's just check it out. The Google car might also tell us as well, and different Google cars in different places will also give us a heads up. The trees as well, the climate, and the sun direction. You can see on this one the sun is facing directly south. You can see the compass here in the bottom corner. The red one means we're facing north, the white one means we're facing south, so we're facing south at the moment, and the sun is in the south. That means we must be in the northern hemisphere. And of course if we're in the southern hemisphere we'd expect the sun to be in the north. And so we can see a nice big fat Canadian flag there, which gives us the fact that we are actually in Canada. We've got green signs, which could mean that we're in Alberta, and we could be over to the far west. Sometimes you can look on the sides of the bins and that might give us a clue, but we're using, it looks like generation 3 at the moment, which isn't very good for reading signs, unfortunately. So we've now got 10 seconds to guess where we are. I'm just going to click Canada, and it says correct, and we were in the right region of Alberta in Canada. It will then tell us exactly where it was. We were north of Calgary, and then we can click on that and that will show us the exact position that we were on Google Maps or Google Earth or whatever you want to call it. You can see these light yellow fire hydrants are very common in Saskatchewan and Alberta. Then skier poles you can see riding on there. If they're on the bottom, then that's more reminiscent of the west side. And if they're normal skier poles like that, that could be Saskatchewan or Alberta or anywhere like that. And other things that you might notice, in every country the poles are going to be different, and the stop signs, the signs are going to be different, and these stop signs with the white around it are basically Canadian, so you can look at that. It's got, sometimes you might have flags on there and things that we can use, and different poles. Unfortunately that isn't a Saskatchewan pole, so sometimes poles can give you a tremendous help in the game and sometimes not. And definitely in Sask or definitely in Alberta you can find hopefully these Alberta poles, which are white poles with some kind of a colour and then a white middle bit and then another colour. You can see on this really grainy footage that we are actually in Alberta with those Alberta poles, and so you can narrow down exactly where you are, perhaps with even street signs and signs that tell us pedestrian zone, more with skiers on it, and well, that basically narrows down where we are in the world. And even the stop signs and things like that, these speed limit signs, it should say, well, if I can actually see it, well, it's changed. Sometimes the footage changes if you're changing cameras, and that's pretty annoying. But anyway, in Canada it should say maximum speed, I think, and you can see the man and woman holding bags there, handbags. That's definitely something that you'll see in Sask on a white background sign. But you can see all these different clues where we are. You can see red gyropes there are kind of orange to that particular sign. You can see white backgrounds to this particular sign, and emergency detour, that might be specific to this particular region. Who knows? There are definitely some signs, and there you can see maximum. It would say speed limit if we were in America. It would say maximum if we were in Canada. And you can see these round circle signs, 581 on it. Maybe some of those even tell you the road number. The 581, here we are in Carstairs on the 581. So if we zoom out 581, it takes some time to actually zoom in all the way over to that region. But if we did know it, if we were scanning around this map, then we could see the 581 and we could click on that and that would tell us where we are, just simply by looking at the road signs in that particular place, in that part of the world. So what I'm going to do, hopefully, is give you a whistle-stop tour on some of the things that you can spot around the world, and this particular picture gives us a heads up on the common ones. And by clicking in on that, we can see various things, which are, you can see the Alberta poles there, the white, the some kind of a colour, it could be yellow, it could be red, in this case it's black, and double black is the most common in Alberta. You can see these kind of signs as well, and these poles with this barrel on the side of it facing the traffic. Some kinds of long grass as well is also common, and once you get into Manitoba you start getting these kind of birchy type trees, which aren't actually birches but they're probably related, silver birch trees. You can even look at the license plates as well. But you can see it says maximum speed there in Canada, and if we look down at America it should say speed limit. So that narrows down wherever you are instantly. And there are some local flags and local symbols which we'll be moving on to, Grand Canyon, that kind of thing. Pink taxis in the middle of Mexico, Mexico City. They drink Corona out there, so as soon as you see a Corona sign it's bound to be Mexico, and they use alto, you can see on the stop signs instead of stop. If you see alto, it's going to be usually north of the equator, somewhere in Mexico, or it could be Guatemala or Panama, it looks like, and all the way down there. But once you get into the southern side of America, they start saying pare. So if you see any pares, that knocks out the entire other side of the map, and you can see different buildings there, different poles, the black and white poles of Peru, and you can see the Argentinian poles there, unmissable. If you ever see those, you're in Argentina. Every country, every nation, every region and every locality will have its own flag, so you can find those locally. And so if we click on Europe, it gives us a big old load of things that we have to memorise to get anywhere in the game, but usually once the obvious things sink in, then the rest follows on from that. For example, if you see any green bollards by the side of the road, green, white and green, then you're going to be in Ireland. You can count out the rest of the world at that point because you're going to be in Ireland, and so you can just click on that. And if you see any red buildings like this, then you could be in Norway, Sweden, Denmark, maybe Finland as well, maybe even Estonia, but those red buildings signify that area of the world. You're not going to be in Japan or the middle of Africa, you're definitely going to be there. And these blue chevrons as well give away the blue and yellow flag, so as soon as you see any blue and yellow, that gives away the fact that you're going to be in Sweden. And yellow on the signs as well, if they were white, then that would usually mean that you were somewhere else. And yellow is definitely a good signifier. You can see in Holland, Luxembourg, you can see that they both share the rear yellow license plates, which is very indicative. In the UK they will have the rear yellow and the white as well, but definitely in those two countries, if you're not in England, then usually if you're in a flat country, it's somewhere around there, and the yellow definitely gives that away. You can see street mile markers in some kind of places, and that tells you usually the road that you're on, and Utica as well gives away, and Ulica give that away that you're in this part of the world. So as soon as you see some kind of roadside marker, then you're going to be in this kind of the world, because they don't stick them around the ground anywhere else. And you can sometimes see different bollards, different sides of the roads. There should be a very unique bollard here, and you can see some bollards around here and a yellow bollard around there. You can see the bollards are all different, so you can tell the bollards and you can tell wherever you are. Here in Turkey the stop sign is a dur, so if you see a dur and a load of mosques hanging around, you're going to be in Turkey. Of course the Turkish flag as well. So we'll be moving on to all of these, the follow car and the periscope and all these different things, the road signs, the different road markings, and the tracker coverage in Madagascar. So this gives you a heads up on various things. Definitely the green poles in Australia, you'll get used to that. The blue signs in New Zealand, and well, what else have we got here? Well, the general dusty red layout of the central side and the very west side, Australia, and the very indicative bollards as well. So just by looking at something like this and soaking it all in, you can memorise half of the game has to offer. For example, if you ever see a black and orange board like this, you're either in one of two places in the world, and if it's orange like this, then you're going to be in this kind of Ontario kind of a region, and then you click on the capital of Ontario and you're usually right. So by looking at the game, you can see it covers all of the world, and you can see that the world in this case is not the territory. The coverage is in fact limited to various parts of the world that allow the coverage to take place. You can see the coverage is highlighted in blue. So, for example, if you find yourself in Africa, you wouldn't necessarily go into Libya because there is no coverage in Libya. Same with Chad, Nigeria, Mesopotamia, all these other places. Albania and Algeria. So, well, there is some in Albania actually. So if you were looking at Africa, then there is some coverage, some Spanish cities here around Morocco, some scant coverage, but that's very unlikely that you're going to get that. And Malta is heavily covered, and you can see here this area is covered as well. So if you were around about here in Tunisia, what gives it away that you're in Tunisia? Well, for a start, they'll be using Arabic language, and you'll see Arabic and English dotted everywhere. You can see rent-a-cars in English, followed by something in Arabic. And Africana gives it away that you're in North Africa. You can see the people there. They're not black, but they're certainly dark. So we're not in the centre of Africa. And this being this very light sandy colour, you can definitely, the bleached white aspect gives it away that you are in North Africa, because if you were anywhere else it would be rather much redder. This car in front of us is actually the follow car. This green, unique, army coloured, pathetic car is the follow car that will follow us around Tunisia. Usually, 9 times out of 10, the follow car is meant to be behind us, hence the name follow car. But in this particular case, we've ended up with the follow car in front of us. Sometimes, if we change lanes and go in the opposite direction, if it's a two-way thing, then we'll find the follow car is in front of us, but this really crappy, horrible Mazda will follow us all over Tunisia, which tells us where we are. We can also see people dressed up not fully in Tunisian kind of outfit and gear. You'll see many white signs dotted around, and these are the taxis with the number of the taxi cocked to one side on the roof of it. And the ubiquitous Toyota Hilux pickup truck, you'll find that everywhere around the world, so don't worry about that. Mosque type of buildings, mosques, is kind of typical to this area, and you could go on finding bits and pieces. Of course, if you find a sign that tells us where we are, then that helps. And NI is Nigeria, and we're in Tunisia, so I think it's TU for Tunisia if you find that. And sometimes you can find a TU on a sign somewhere, particularly if it's written in English. But we're not finding the Tunisian signs at the moment, so Noir Medical, it's actually French, and the French I think was battling over Tunisia for a bit, so you might see French, and you might think, oh, we're in Senegal, I can see French. Well, no, we're not, because, well, the sandy soil would be very much redder if you were anywhere near Senegal, and you're seeing French down there. So that's Tunisia with that follow car. It's pretty obvious where we were in Tunisia, but we could be anywhere in Tunisia and find the same landscape. There is a little bit of footage in Egypt, but not a great deal around the pyramids, so that usually gives away where we are. So a bit of Tunisia is covered on the coast. You can see dotted around Morocco as well, but that's not usually common in the game. You can see Senegal, Ghana, Nigeria, Kenya. So those are the places that are covered. There is no point clicking on the map anywhere unless it's in one of those places. Here we are in Senegal. You can see the slightly reddier soil, and it gets reddier the more south you get. You can see the edge of the Google car. This is what I like to call the Guatemala car, but it isn't, so don't be fooled by that. You can see darker, blacker faces here in Senegal, and usually everything will be written primarily in French without any Arabic, because it's not an Arabic country, so everything's French. Credit Mutual de Senegal tells us that we're in Senegal, but there are other things that can tell us that we're in Senegal as well. Obviously, if there are any flags around and things like that, people tend to use bikes here that they don't use in Tunisia. So that's one thing that differentiates the place. And we can see, well, different architecture. This reminds me more of Morocco. There are no Morocco footage, so that's that. You'll find donkeys pulling things in this part of the world, and that doesn't usually appear in other worlds. For example, if it was India, they'd have camels doing it. So you can see various things. This isn't typical Senegal, by the way. If we can find somewhere that's typical Senegal, maybe we'll, maybe we won't. Still kind of out there in a very residential area, unfortunately. But if we can find anywhere that isn't residential, here we go. Now you'll find the red soil. Red soil is indicative of quite a lot of places, but it is here in Senegal. You can see these French SNCF overhead pylons there. That reminds us of the French railway lines, and that means, well, French. You only see those in France, sometimes in Germany, but you also see those in Senegal. And you can see the types of architecture that we get here, but you'll also find as well, predominantly in the outskirts, the natural habitat of the Senegalese, which is the mud hut. And these mud huts are actually lighter than most of the mud huts that I've seen dotted around. But in Senegal you'll find ancient mud huts lying around from 2,000 years ago, still in use in the suburbs of towns and cities. You saw the silver Senegal car there, which can sometimes appear, and that helps. Sometimes it changes footage, and sometimes that appears. There you go. That kind of gives it away. There's nothing on the roof of that car, so we're not in Kenya. The Toyota Hilux pickup truck, but you can see the architecture, I'd say, is more Morocco. And we're not in Morocco, we're speaking French. We've got the Senegalese flag there as well. So with the mud huts and everything else, the red soil, people riding around, you can say that this is Senegal. So that's fine. Let's zoom out again and click on the layers. And if we click on the layers and click on terrain, you can see that Senegal is flat. It's rather red and dusty, apart from the bottom part, which is rather much greener. So you have to watch out for that. Senegal arcs around and it's rather much greener. But these countries aren't covered, but Ghana is. You can see by turning on the terrain that there are some mountains in Ghana. And the north of it is fairly deserty, the south of it is a bit more greener, although I wouldn't call it anywhere near tropical. If we drop ourselves anywhere near in Ghana, you'll notice that there's only one major highway running north-south, and we're upon it. You can see this Google car in particular, and this Google car in particular has something special upon it: black tape. So if you see that black tape on the first right hand side of those supports there, that means that we're in Ghana. If you see it on the second one, second right hand one, that means we're in Reunion Island, which also speaks French, but it doesn't look like Ghana. In Ghana they speak predominantly, well, English and Ghanese, so that kind of thing. So if you see street signs, they will usually be in English, and You can see it's kind of an Afrikaans language. You can see it's an African on it. And Padula, High Technical School. Well, Bamoy is where we are at the moment, and Bamoy NR is what it says on the sign. So if you found Bamoy, there you go. You can see people fully dressed now. It's a different kind of clothing that they're wearing. You're in Ghana, of course. If you see the black tape, then you're in Ghana. There's no question about it. And you can see these mosque type buildings with these loudspeakers painted on them. You'll see that in many places around the world, including maybe the Philippines, Indonesia, but here in Ghana you'll see the black faces, so that rules that out. You'll see the rusty roofs as well in the Philippines, but we can't see any tuk-tuks, so we're not in the Philippines. And this red soil kind of gives it away. You can see green signs here in Ghana, and everything points to Ghana. This taxi with the corners painted up on it, and I mean the Google car gives it away that you're in Ghana straight away, basically. And if you're in close to Accra, then sometimes they put special tape over that. It's red and black kind of hazard tape, but it's not on here. You can still see the black tape in Ghana. You can still see the taxis, and very distinctive, and the colours as well. White sign here, and so you can usually figure out where you are. And those bollards. So here we are in Ghana. There's a lot of greenery down here in the greener centre. Kind of a map around the capital, Accra. And the drier it gets, the more towards you're in the top of Ghana. And the only other place around here, according to the territory, which is this footage, is the territory. It's not the map, it's the territory. So it's only the territory that you're interested in. Here in Nigeria, there's more than 1-2 roads leading north. There's the green part, and there's the kind of a deserty part. Let's stick it up in Kano first of all and see what we can see. And you can see tuk-tuks first of all. They pop out because here in Nigeria they love it. Love using tuk-tuks. They use fully dressed to carry things upon their heads around here. You can see not more than a few people doing that. And they have individual lights, of course, individual poles, and license plate painted on the side of the car. These fully round tuk-tuks with people sitting in the back. You'll see that in India predominantly, but they won't be all the same colour as this here in Nigeria. And they speak predominantly English, I would have thought, but there's some kind of a Nigerian tint to it. Collections, so we're still looking at English. And you can see the architecture's changed a little bit. We're still getting the kind of what I'd call Moroccan kind of architecture, and we're starting to get party political things coming in. You can see these weird poles that you can see on the side of the road, typical to Nigeria. You're not going to be anywhere else. But the main thing about Nigeria by far is that you get a follow car of a Toyota Hilux pickup truck. Guess what we're looking at right now? That's the follow car. If you see a follow car with the police headlights on top, and these tuk-tuks and the black faces and the kind of English written everywhere and everything else, these really weird, it has to say, the pylons. If I can get a close-up of one, I mean, they're not easy to spot in this particular urban landscape. They really are weird poles stuck there with slotted grooves on them. But even in this picture you can see the police follow car, which, if you remember from the big footage that we had a look at, the police forecourt is one of the major things in Nigeria. Ghana, of course, you've got the tape. So let's exit from this. This is supposed to be a whistle stop tour, and it's already taking longer than my voice can support it. In Kenya, you can put it anywhere in Kenya and you will find, well, more English, but Kenya definitely speaks more English than anywhere else because Ministry of Fisheries, there's the Kenyan flag there, black, red, green. Kenya, they will, well, all the place names and things are look like they're in Kenyan, but everything else is English. In Kenya you'll find a different kind of red soil. You'll find sometimes this bar vehicle with a bar over it, sometimes not. You won't find a police follow vehicle here. You won't see any tuk-tuks either. So that kind of gives it away that this place is kind of unique. Kenyans here, it's more of an affluent society, so you'll find better quality motorcycles for one thing. Better quality shops, better quality clothing on people. They're not in full dress, they're in this kind of African kind of uniform. And you'll always see plenty of people on bikes, no matter where you go, in Central Africa and Central, Eastern Asia, that kind of thing. Anywhere where they can have bikes, they have people on them. You can see it's packed out, this packed coloured African urban landscape that is typical Kenya. Typical Kenya colours, typical Kenya buildings. It's got a weird, huge backplate on the back of cars. You can see it on the back of vehicles. And Kathawa, that could be in the middle of and you can see it even reads it on the signs. So with this kind of language, you're either in the middle of Australia or kind of Africa, and you can see the African influence everywhere. So obviously you're in Kenya, and usually in Kenya there's a snorkel car. If I put it in Mombasa, we might get the let's see, well, it's kind of got a something on the front of it, but that's not, there you go, that's the snorkel car with a snorkel on the front of it. You can see in the front of the picture, and that is employed in the dusty areas of Kenya. Usually if you see that snorkel and those black faces and everything else, you're in Kenya, mate. There's no two ways about it. So no two ways about it, because it's a more affluent country than many, and you might even be able to get it from phone calls and things like that. But that's definitely Kenya in a nutshell. And if you're not in those two places, you're either in, well, Botswana, you're in Namibia, or in South Africa. So Namibia, let's have a look at this one first of all. You can see yellow front license plates here in Namibia, and every car's got them. You can get every car, and that's usually white in most countries. And you can see here we're driving on the left as well in Namibia. You can see the traffic's driving on the left, so that's sometimes a giveaway to where we are in some countries of the world. There isn't much here in rural Namibia, but you do get the street signs obviously telling you where we are. If we can have a quick look at one of them, that's kind of cheating because that tells you where you are, and it's not actually telling me anything on there, but it is giving me the road numbers. We're on the B1, the C28. None of those city signs are familiar, but you will get familiar definitely with these things printed on the side, XC and whatever it is, and it says it's a Shillongal taxi group, Hotchland Park. So these taxis are all very familiar and they only appear, but this is definitely not Namibia, because if we have a look at some of these other roads. And Windhoek, or however you pronounce it, is one of those. Let's see if I can get onto the actual road. And sometimes it will give you a car. Well, it's not telling me anything on there. Sometimes it will give you a car with a toilet roll upon it. So if I have a look at my Namibia map that I made myself, this tells you if the toilet roll can't be found, whether it's on the right, whether it's on the left, and it looks like it's always on that patch of coast or it's blurred out. So usually if it's on the right, you'll be on the left side of the map. If it's on the left, you'll usually be in the upper right side of the map. So this is my map that I made myself of this region. So let's take a look at the coast and let's look at the toilet roll here. According to my map, it should be there, and I can't actually see it on this particular footage, and sometimes the Google car changes, but usually you'll see toilet rolls in Namibia, and definitely in the top of the country. If we can find an actual Google car on the main road, if I can actually find the footage, well, there's usually a stack of toilet rolls in this particular area, or it could be blurred out. So it looks like it's blurred out typically on this particular footage, but the Namibian Google car, if you can find that wherever it is, gives it away that it's Namibia simply by the shape of it, because it's pretty unique to the country. Obviously, now that I'm looking for it on this particular map, I can't see the Google car anywhere. It will have a corkscrew on the front of it, which you can barely see on this footage. There it is. And that corkscrew can be found in, well, Oman, but it can also be found here. And so you'll be looking at toilet roll footage, but also it's got a grey arc around the back of the window of the Google car, and that tells you that you're in Namibia because it'll have a grey arc around it. So let's try it again with this one. Can we see the toilet roll? Is it there? Well, I think that's there to the right. And yeah, you can see this grey arc around the back window, which is unique to Namibia. You can see it's a very dry country. I'm talking of dry countries. It doesn't take 5 minutes to talk about Botswana if we can find somewhere that's actually on the road. Alright then, let's move from that. Let's move to somewhere that is around here, maybe, around there. And alright, finally, so in Botswana you'll find what I call the chili car with the chili rear spoiler on it. You can see everything is dry and dusty with this kind of beigey colour. All the trees are flat and African and spread out like savanna trees, and if you're going to see any road markings, you might see a yellow line, 2 yellow lines on the side of the road, thin lines like that. And the chili car, and this definitely means Botswana. Definitely. And if we zoom into a Google thing, it says 2019 there. So it even pins us down to when the footage was taken. So Botswana is pretty obvious. If in South Africa, then usually you'll be around Johannesburg because that's where all the footage is. So that's where most people put their thing. It's going to be most things written in English, but you also see these weird vans with the yellow stripe around them. That's kind of indicative to these kind of areas, and everything will be slightly different. These yellow poles maybe, and along the side of the road it should have yellow lines to either side. You can see the yellow lines, they're not very clear, but it should have the yellow lines. And sometimes when you're moving down the road you might even have 3 centre lines on the go. 3 centre lines is definitely South Africa, as well as ZA. ZA everywhere, South Africa. It's rather poorer than Kenya, so you'll see rather poorer things dotted around, a lot more rubbish, that kind of thing. And those traffic lights remind you of England. That means we're in South Africa, but we're not in England, of course. So I can't really see much around here, but you can see, well, it is affluent. There's kind of like these weird fire hydrant things that they've got going on. You'll only see that in South Africa. And if I put it in Eswatini, you'll find usually some kind of mountains, but things are rather more spread out. It's kind of redder soil than most of South Africa, and it's got weird triangles, and the hills kind of give it away. Everything's very spread out in Eswatini. You won't find anything anywhere near anything. And well, it's still got the chili car in Eswatini here, but we're not in the other places because it's got hills in it and we can see black faces, so that narrows it down. And usually, well, Eswatini and Lesotho, usually Eswatini is quite flat, but it's usually got buildings really spread out in the distance. Not that I can see many of those, but you'll find houses without even roads connected to them, just spread out on the landscape, just dotted around miles away from anywhere. That's definitely that kind of landscape. And if you're in Lesotho, then look at all these mountains. If you're not in the mountains, again, these buildings, it's looking like Bolivia, with the Bolivian kind of cactuses, the Bolivian kind of hills, but you won't see black faces in Bolivia, so that gives it away. Again, very much spread out without anything connected to them whatsoever, and big rocky, hilly, mountainous region. And you can see the school children there. You'll find the mud huts back, but usually the tin roofs won't be rusty, and that gives it away. So it's pretty unique landscape. It'll always give you these weighed down by stones, but they're all aluminium, so they don't get rusty, which is unique to this part of the world. The mud huts again, and just looking at that you think, oh, we're in Mexico, but no, with these buildings pretty spread out like this, we're in that country. So that's Africa covered. Madagascar, you'll find trekker coverage all the way through the interior of it. So trekker coverage usually means, well, you've even got a road marker there, and this is an official coverage. It's got Madagascar written on it. So you're not going to get unofficial coverage in the game, but if it's tracker footage, it will usually be footage where you're followed by a load of guys, and all I can see is unofficial Google car footage. Let's see if we can find anything else. That's on the road. Well, I can't actually see the typical official Madagascar coverage, unfortunately. But the tracker footage will be a load of guys following you with one of them's got a baseball hat on, and the other guys are following you. This is again not tracker footage, it's the same unofficial Google car, which you won't find in the game because it's got Madagascar written on it. If there's guys following you over a mountain, you're going to be in Madagascar. The only thing about Madagascar is it's got these weird naked bulbous trees growing in there, which is unique to the country, and you'll find those. And again, this weird Mexican cacti growing around. so you're not going to get this unofficial coverage. So I don't know why I'm looking at this, but you can see it's even redder. So that's Madagascar. The only other place is Reunion, and you look at Reunion. Let's stick us in the mountains. Where are we? We could be anywhere. This is tracker footage in the mountains of Reunion, and it looks jungly. The grass looks kind of European, but this could be Alps. But look at those sheer rock mountains there. So you can get tracker footage here, but I'm actually looking for the Google car footage, obviously, because that usually tells us where we are. Let's put it in here. So Reunion Island is French, so you'll see loads of French dotted around, and hopefully you'll also find, as we've mentioned, the black tape on the right hand side, but on the rear. That gives it away that you're in Reunion on what I like to call the Guat car, the Guatmobile. So in Reunion it'll be RE for Reunion, avec is French. Putting those three things together means you're on Reunion Island. And sometimes they have archways above the entrances and the exits to places, and that gives it away, particularly the small places around on the map. Definitely Reunion with your Reunion car. So that's Africa quickly covered. Of course, if you're in Jordan, then if you look around, you'll find more Arabic, or a different type of Arabic than the other Arabic we saw before. And you'll find it's very dry and dusty, and some things are written in a kind of a different language, and it's pretty, well, it says Jordan Dubai Islamic Bank there. That tells you everything that you need to know, really. You're in Jordan. But there are different languages to be found here, and it's very dry and it's very dusty, and it's typical Jordan. In Jordan you'll find the capital is Amman and the second one is Man, so it's Man or Man in Jordan. It's pretty easy to remember. If you're in North Israel, then what you're probably going to find is these weird poles that stick out. I mean weird as in weird, and you'll find those all over the place, and that basically tells us where we are. And you'll find these weird languages, and let's see if we can find a better example of that. And there you can see completely different. You might think, oh, that's Arabic, and this N there that you can see underneath there, and those dashes and that O, so that's actually Hebrew. And this being the old country of what they speak Hebrew here, and we'll find Hebrew on the signs. There's white signs there with the Hebrew on it, and I think it's got kind of Englishy type characters underneath, but it's written in the local language. But if you see that Hebrew anywhere, and these weird spikes and these weird poles, that gives it away that you're in Israel. If you're looking at Lebanon, then, well, this is atypical Lebanon, but you won't find, you see, it looks more like Arabic. You won't find any Hebrew here, and even out in the middle of nowhere where there is absolutely nothing to be found, you can find these weird poles, which are the same as the Israel poles, except they'll be rusty. Let's see if we can find something else. Near Byblos perhaps. This is all unofficial Google footage, so we're not going to be able to use this in the game, but let's see if we can find, yeah, even, so it's a weird thing, but they're usually rusty here in the Lebanon, and you'll find more Arabic it's a simplified version. You can see it's not formed into characters as much, and everything kind of gives it away. You can look at the license plates as well. You can see this one's got a blue line upon it and on the front of it, and sometimes those kind of give it away. If it's got a blue line to the side like these tend to have, that means it's a European car. But yeah, the simplified Arabic and the rusty twisty poles, of which I can't find a good use of, but you can see that it's got these weird things on the top of it, which is unique to this place, and it will be a simple grid pattern just like that. So it's not as complicated as the ones we've seen so far. And you can see pretty weird cars. That's a Turkey car, it looks like, or something like that. So moving around, Cyprus has got some footage, but you won't tend to find Cyprus in the game. If you find Crete and you find the Crete car, of which this might be, not quite sure. Let's just take a look. And well, with the Crete car you'll find the Crete aerial, which is just poking up there. I can't actually get a good glimpse of it, but the Crete aerial, if you can find that on the back of the Google car, is a giveaway that we're in this part of Crete. It's not actually showing us anything there typically on this footage I've managed to find, but obviously if you're in Crete then you're going to be seeing plenty of Greek everywhere. Everything will be written in Greek, so it's kind of dry and dusty, but it's not Malta, it's just dry and dusty. And you see these black water tower barrels on the roof. So if you're in mainland Greece you'll obviously be seeing that Greek everywhere, and it's similarly dry and dusty, although this here, if you can see the top of it, the top of that aerial, if that had kind of a grey mark on it, or half of it's grey, then that would be the Crete car. But here we are in Greece. Sometimes you see that with the big long point on the end of it here in Greece, and obviously if you're in Greece then you're in Greece. You could be on one of the islands. And Malta, being halfway between Tunisia and Italy, feels halfway between Tunisia and Italy. Typically Malta has got this coloured rock which everything is made out of, and you'll find these really old style buildings. Malta, you'll see the Maltese cross everywhere on signs, and this kind of architecture. So it's kind of, as soon as you see those kind of bricks, this kind of architecture, those kind of walls, it just feels Malta-y to me. You can see we've got a blue car here with that spark on the front, and let's see now, you've got a Maltese cross, and these usually say Malta on them, and it looks like it's got kind of Islamic names, but they're written in kind of the Romany kind of a font. So I mean, this is definitely Malta, and the more you look at Malta and the more you feel Malta and smell Malta, it's really an unmistakable language. Even the license plates have got that small blue thing in the corner. You can look at anything and it'll tell you that it's Malta. So this one, let's see, St. Francis store. It really doesn't tell us much actually. But anyway, sometimes it gives it away on different things, but you can see this is a lot drier and dustier than Tunisia was, and it's got that pink sandstone-y kind of feel to it, which is unique to the place, unless you're in the southern part of Italy, or unless you're in obviously Sicily, which is where we are at the moment. But obviously, now that we're getting into Sicily, you'll find everything's written in Italian. That means it's got A's and I's after everything and O's after everything. So it always tends to end on a vowel. This looks like pretty Malta. You can see the same kind of colours for the buildings, but it's not got that old architecture. It's not got that English everywhere. It's Italian everywhere. If I can, Porcello and Tribunale, Carabinieri. It helps to pronounce these things. That tells you where you are. But if it looks Tunisian like this, then it's usually in Sicily somewhere. And I can't see any Italian bollards anywhere. And that gives away that we're not in Italy. No bollards but speaking Italian? Well, that must mean that we're here then. So, in most parts of Europe, now that we're getting in towards Europe, it helps if you know the bollards. So I've made a quick map of some of the bollards around. The one that looks like Australia is probably going to be Romania, and the big fat one that looks like Australia is actually Turkey. If you find a green one, then you're in Ireland. If you find a dark green one, then you're in Galicia. The yellow one that it showed us on the other map is usually Spain, unless you're all the way up here in kind of Latvia, Lithuania kind of area. And white ones usually in Portugal, but also you'll see white ones as well in Germany. The ones with the tab are Iceland, or it could be Denmark, or it's a different kind of one if you're in Belgium. So if it's French and it's Belgium, you can see by the bollard by the side of the road, the big French bollards are unmistakable. The English ones have got black at the top and black underneath, and the Italian ones have just got black on the top and don't got anything underneath, and that is also found in Albania as well. Russian have the red tab by the side, so sometimes the bollards can help. The zebra crossing signs also help in Europe because every single place will have a unique crossing sign, which will have a unique number of stripes on it, and sometimes not even any stripes on it at all. The Belgian one doesn't have any stripes on it, but usually if you find one that doesn't have any stripes, it will be Austria, which you can see is the first one here. Big old one for Austria. If it has tons of stripes, then you'll usually be in Spain, and if it has a tall guy, you'll usually be in Finland, or if it's northern Finland, it'll be a kind of fat guy there. And all of these have different numbers. If you only see 4 of them, then it's Sweden, and if it's in yellow, it'll be Iceland. So all of these things, if it's got a hat on it, it could be Norway. So usually the Russian ones only got 3, and that applies to, if it's got a belt on it, you'll either be in Portugal. If he's got his knee bent and he's got a belt on it, you'll be in Portugal with a knee. If he hasn't got his knee bent, then he could be in Luxembourg or Croatia or Serbia. So the belt is important, also in Germany as well. So if you see the belt, that cuts out most of Europe apart from those few countries. And you can see in the United Kingdom sometimes you'll see a black and white pole as well. And the street signs in Europe are all different as well. Obviously in London you'll see a big place, Trafalgar Square, written in white. If it's in Poland, it'll be different. If it's in Prague, it'll be this one with a red background and it's got Praha written on it, which says Prague. Italy, it'll be Via del Corso. That's pretty obvious. If it's Greek, it'll have Greek on it. This is Athens. The O is an A. The triangle TH, so A, TH, A, and then Athe or Athena, which means Athens. So Amsterdam is usually a blue one. If you see double S, it could be if you see the old there, it's definitely going to be in Denmark. Ulica is Hungary. That reminds me of Utica, which is a place in North Africa, and you'll see that in that kind of a region. Other things as well, Istanbul, it's a big one, so that can help. And you can see, well, various different things as well. So let's get back to the map. So if you see those poles and those bollards and everything else, you usually be in those countries. If it's France, you'll see a blue sticker on the pole, which is on a French pole that marks it out as being French. So obviously everything's going to be in French because you're in France. You see these window shutters here is typical of this side of Europe. You can see the street signs that we've seen already. Rue is French, and I think Rua is Portuguese or something like that. Calais is Spanish. Strada, I think, is Italian. So we're looking at French here. It's obviously French, and I can't see any utility poles because we're not out in the sticks where we need to be. And well, I can't see any blue signs on there, but usually there'll be a blue tab on there, and that gives away that you're in France. You can see a ladder pole here that's common in France. The French fire hydrants as well, pretty unique. If you see any of those. And well, everything smells like France with these buildings, these shutters, these cobbles, the French. I can't see anything that tells me other things, but definitely, obviously, every country will have its unique points. And in France, here, we're in Europe, we've got the European license plates, which also gives that away, as opposed to in Italy, where you can see, looking at these license plates, they've got blue on both sides, which is usually unique to Italy. So you can see blue on both sides, you're in Italy. You can see the Italian flag there, ends in I, it's Italy. And this looks like tracker footage. Let's see if we can find something a bit better than that. So again, the license plates, you're in Italy. And so usually the general crossing signs throughout Europe will be the general crossing sign, no belt, no anything, so you can't tell where you are except for the fact that you're probably in the Adriatic. Looking at that, it looks Italian. You've got an Italian skyline there that tells you that you're in Italy. You're not in anywhere else really. If you look at that, you can't be anywhere else. So it's got the Italian arches, it's got the Romani architecture with these things going around there. It's the typical Romani house with the 1, 2, 3, 4 and then the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It's got the Romani kind of triangles on it, it's got the Romani arches around it, and all of the buildings, these tenements, are all the same, all of them, because that's the architecture with the windows, with the flaps that open, the door, the window things. So I can't see any Italian poles or bollards here, which is very disappointing because they've obviously got a black top and they're different to most things, but I can't see it. But definitely Corso Vinucci, they usually use V's instead of U's. So it's got to be Italy, hasn't it? With all these things and the Italian flag going around, it's got to be Italy. So there are giveaway clues to Europe, of course. Switzerland, you'll see the mountains. Austria, you see the mountains. But in Austria, as we've discovered, it's a different pedestrian crossing sign, and there are different bollards as well in Austria. Austrian kind of architecture. You'll see these roofs and these points on the roofs. and it's kind of European flavour. And this, with the middle bit up there, it goes up and then flat and then down, that's more architecture. You can see Strasse written with a B. Strasse is German, but they use German around here. Austria they do. In Switzerland they tend to prefer French. So you can see this kind of architecture, and you're not in Germany. And again, I can't see any of the Austrian bollards, but I mean, that's pretty German. That's pretty German. They'll have, all the regions will have their own flags, typical European license plates. They'll have their own beer as well, and silver birches, so we're on the birch line. And here we are in Austria with this kind of Austrian kind of a look about it. But you could be in Denmark, but of course Denmark will have a line, a diagonal line running through all of the Åls, if I can find any. And Denmark might look a bit gloomier, seeing as it's quite a bit more northern. So I can't see much on the particular footage. Let's have a look. That's got an Å, but it doesn't have a line through it. Nord, that means north, Nord Skelet. So if you see Nord, you're either in Denmark or Norway. So you can see straight away from the languages that they're all different. And the cars will be driving, they'll all be different. Mercedes and German cars. This is typical of Denmark with the red signs. And anything ending in VEJ, veg, that's definitely a Denmark thing. See anything veg. Those bollards, which aren't the typical bollards for Denmark, but that's the one with the red stripe. It looks like an Iceland bollard, but it's got the red stripe at the top of it. Tells you exactly where you are. Whereas if you were in Iceland, obviously the ground is going to be a lot more greyer because of the volcanic soil. In Iceland it's going to be a lot darker everywhere you look, and most of these roofs are going to be grey, but you'll see the odd red building. Most of the buildings are going to be white. Here in Iceland you'll see poles by the side of the road which are in different colours, which are kind of orange, red, orange. You'll see these signs, kind of orange, red, orange kind of things. The road signs as well. Short license plates. You're surrounded by hills. The grey, the dark grey. And as I say, if you see a road bollard which has a tab, it'll be in yellow. We've got different fire hydrants here. The pedestrian crossings are in yellow, as we've seen already. But if you are out in the middle of nowhere and you've no idea where you are, because you could be anywhere, you could literally be anywhere on the planet, then you look for that yellow tab on those kind of things and it tells you exactly where you are. If we have a look on the main road, let's drop it around here, and that's what I'm looking for. It's got the grey tab at the top, and no matter where you go on the main roads in Iceland, you'll find that kind of symbol. They're not always identical, but you'll find that kind of symbol. And then usually you'll find, you can see they're not red here, they're in yellow. Everything's in yellow. It's got the two dots over it, which means you're either in Norway, Sweden or Iceland usually, or, well, I don't think they use that in Denmark. If you're on the Faroe Islands, obviously it's going to be pretty similar, except you won't find the roofs are the same. The architecture is pretty similar, but it's not quite as dark. The soil, it's a lighter shade of soil. It's not volcanic black rock, but you can see it's pretty similar architecture. Apart from that, it's going to have a different Google coil with different corkscrew on the end of it, and you can see more red buildings here. If everything's barren like this without any trees upon it, sheer cliffs, you're either in the Faroe Islands or you could be in Iceland, because there are virtually no trees growing in Iceland. And obviously if you're in Greenland, the territory is only over here on the west hand side. Usually if you find something by the coast, hopefully we can find something by the coast that's actually going to be part of the game. I'm not quite sure. Let's see where it drops us anyway. Well, Greenland, you can see there's no trees whatsoever. It's so cold that the water is 1 degree above freezing, so it looks ice cold, even, you know, at every stage. But this is obviously not the coastal Greenland I was hoping to find, and I can't actually find any Greenland. Aha, let's put it in nuke. Let's nuke it, and well, you'll find the similar architecture in Greenland, only you'll find icebergs floating out there. So if ever you see icebergs floating out there, you're probably going to be in Greenland. That gives it away. So we've covered that. We've covered Europe. Everywhere is different. You can stick it in the middle of Turkey, and as long as we're not in the middle of a building, you'll always find a Turkish flag somewhere in Turkey. You'll find taxis with thing to one side, and I can't see any Turkey poles. Obviously everything will be written in Turkish as well, and different buses, different infrastructure, and Turkey flag has got a crescent moon upon it, and usually the Turkey flag always gives it away wherever you are. But I can't see what I'm looking for in terms of Turkey poles. Aha, that's a Turkey pole, which is kind of in a B shape, but that's what Turkey poles are like. It's kind of like a cocktail stirrer in like a B shape. You see that? Then if it's in a proper B shape, then you're in Bhutan. If you're not, you're in Turkey or something pretty similar to that. This pavement as well, pretty typical, and you'll find the name of the place written on the bins in Turkey. So you'll find, well, I can't actually see anything there, but Turkey's got those metal bins that swing open from the top. They're pretty obligatory bins in the area. Everybody's got one. They're not open top trash cans. They're actually metal or aluminium swing top bins, and they'll all have the name of the city written on them if it's actually legible. Ameng or something like that, maybe. So looking at the Turkish architecture, it's different again from what we are used to. They'll have different license plates, and they'll have different language as well. The Turkish has got lines running underneath of it like tails everywhere. So if you see any language with characters with kind of tails hanging off them, and can't see anything on there. It's got that G with a weird thing on it, but the tails give it away that it's Turkey. Ah, there you go, the C with a tail on it. So we're in Turkey. We've got the Turkish poles, we've got the C with the tail on it, and crappy European cars. It's kind of dry. It's got the Turkish flag everywhere. You're going to be in Turkey. So obviously there's different giveaway things for every part of Europe. All these places, Slovakia, Slovenia, and so let's just put it in the middle of here. and get back to the road. So we could be anywhere at the moment in Central Europe. The language has got Z's on it, which means it's close to Hungary. Let's see, might not be Hungary, it probably isn't. It's got these weird crossing signs. There's a guy on a bike crossing it. That'll be unique to the area. I saw a flag there, these white signs. So, unique man digging a road sign. And, well, we usually get it by the crossing signs, so that tells you something. But I'm actually looking for anything else. We've got a VW car. We've got the things with things on it, so that tells me that we're getting nearer kind of Central Europe when you see those things on it. They've got open top wheelie bins, which is kind of a Central European thing, but can't actually see where we are at the moment. I thought I'd put it in the middle of Slovakia, so let's try Czechia instead. Pretty similar architecture, and I can't actually find what I'm looking for, which is a bollard. And of course all road bollards are unique to every country. If you can see one of those, it gives the country away, and I can't actually see a bollard here. I've got Z's in the words, which means we're somewhere near Hungary, but we're not actually in Hungary. This is Czechia. These weird signs with a broken arm. And this language written in black, which is pretty distinct here. And obviously if you can find a big sign which tells you where you are, all the better. It might have numbers on there. But yeah, the actual bollards, the out of town bollards give it away. If you don't know where you are in Czechia, you start to see these signs which tells you that you're in whatever town we were in, Humpolek at the moment. But I can't see the typical bollards which give it away that we're in Czechia. Looking at this, it should be kind of in two segments. It's a unique two-segment thing to that area on the bollards. Not that I can find any whatsoever. Hungary's got the Hungary poles, and it's got the Z's in it. So let's see, the Hungary poles are big and fat and chunky, and they've got slots in there. That tells you that you're somewhere around Hungary. It's got a language with plenty of Z's in it, but it's not as warm as the ones that we've seen so far. It's got lots of political posters written everywhere with same dashes and same Z's in it, and strange orange road signs there, red fire hydrants, and everywhere will be slightly different. And you might see written in places that's what they call Hungary, HU, there it is, HU for Hungary. So I really don't need to go into that. Romania, it'll be pretty Hungarian looking, only sometimes they paint the bottom of the poles white like they do in Brazil. So you can see this Hungarian pole with white, and you can see it everywhere, white. It'll be nice, big and chunky. The biggest, chunkiest ones, they even paint the poles white. And Romania, it says on that lorry, it's a double lorry, which is pretty weird. And and they like to use their A-frame poles in Romania and Poland. I can't see any there, but if you are in Poland, it will have a unique zebra crossing sign of a guy with a walking next to a pole. It tells you it's pole land. You'll find the Polish language everywhere, and maybe even the Polish flag, Polish bollards with the white stripe running down the middle of it, and Polish, you can see it's got a tail under the E, but not under any other letters, so we're not in Turkey. Language has got Z's in it, but it's got weirdness things going on. Sometimes they've got letters that are crossed out, and the crossed out letters gives it away that you're in Poland. If it's got a crossed out I or something like that, so you can definitely see that we're in Poland. It looks like Germany, only it's a lot more spread out, and these give you the names. Look like L crossed out for Lodz, or Ludge, however you pronounce that. It's got the L crossed out, so that tells you're in Poland. It even tells you you're on the 91, and even the colours of those things denote where we are, because if we zoom in you'll see the minor roads are all in red in Poland. In Hungary they're all in green. In Romania they're back to being red, but they're in a shield shape, these weird shields. And where's that? In Serbia they're in yellow, and by the time you get to Albania they're back down to being blue again, but it's got the SH on there. The SH carries over from this kind of thing where it's SS in the middle of Italy, and if you're in SS here again in Sardinia, but if it's northern Italy it's going to be SR. So even these tell you where you are. If you're in Spain it's going to be an R road, but they're going to be N's everywhere, N written everywhere. If it's Spain it's going to be very dry. It's going to be, well, sometimes very dry in most parts of Spain, if they can find an actual road. And it will have these olive trees usually everywhere as well. You can see more of the French style, but it's got crossovers to it. That tells you that you're somewhere near Spain, unless you're in the middle of Senegal. You can see the road, the landscape's fairly red, but that tells you we're somewhere near France. These poles tell you that it's going to be snowy here at some parts of the year, so they need those poles above the thing. And usually if it's a major highway it'll tell you it's an N. They also have these yellow reflectors on the side of the road, and the main ones, yellow reflectors and yellow there, which tells you that you're in Spain. You can see that it's a flat part of Spain, and if we look kind of north then we can see some mountains, and south is kind of wide open, so that tells you you're in Spain somewhere. Let's have a look at this sign. Any dad written, if you see dad written anywhere, that's usually Spanish. And in Spain you got the long pedestrian crossing signs, obviously, with the 8 on there. And in Portugal you've got the guy with the knees bent and the belt on. That tells you that you're in Portugal. Portugal, it's going to be a little bit whiter than Spain. Generally things are painted more white, and if we go back we can see the guy with the knee bent and the belt on. So we're in Portugal. Also they use Portuguese in Portugal, not Spanish. So you see Cante Terrene, that sounds more like Italian. Escolar, Complexo, Centro, and you can see letters with marks on them. You can see that A with the wavy line above it, and the mark below the C, that tells us that we're looking at Portuguese and not Spanish. So if you're looking at Portuguese with a C with a tail on it like that, and all these things, then you're looking at that. You're looking at these crossing signs. We're in Portugal. It's obviously sunny, so you can see they've got different open top bins with these handles on them. They're different to the Spanish ones, and so everything tells you that you're in Portugal. But moving over now to Mexico, of course they speak Spanish in Mexico, and if you see anything, let's see, that's in Spanish but you're not in Spain, you can see these flat roof buildings now in South America, which are predominant. This type of architecture you'll find everywhere in South America, and they also speak Spanish. Congreso del Estado Sonora, which is where we're in at the moment, the region of Sonora, so that tells you where we are. And in Mexico they like to have the hexagonal poles, which tells you that usually you're in Mexico, although that does appear in other places. See white street signs, and we can see includos and tradición. You see that dad at the end, that tells you that we're speaking Spanish. But with these flat roof buildings, we're not in Spain, we're in Mexico. So that tells you with the Mexico and the hexagonal poles everywhere. But the other thing that tells us that we're in Sonora, if we can find somewhere that's actually rural on this map, which is pretty difficult because most of Sonora is not rural at all, you'll usually find cactuses growing and scrubland. And also if you find cactuses growing, you could be in Baja California as well, because they're like growing the long tall cactuses, these kind of long tall cactuses, and you'll find those everywhere, and that tells you what part of the world you're in. And if you see those growing wild, usually you'll be in somewhere in Sonora, hence the name of the John Wayne film, or you'll be in Baja. But the ones in Sonora tend to branch, and they tend to be cactus bushes rather than long tall cactuses. If I can see any of those, I'll point them out, but those tend to only appear in the wild, so I have to zoom in to find those long tall cactuses, which are indicative of this area of the planet. And typically I can't find any, but you can see these black ones here, these water barrels on the top of the roofs. They'll generally be black or white with that particular shape, which tells us that we're somewhere in Mexico. And if you go towards the bottom of Mexico, Chiapas region, you can have more colourful, more greener, more lush and tropical. Now you could mistake this for the middle of Africa, but no, these are South Americans, because we've got Spanish perfumes, and you can see the taxes will be unique for this part of the world. And in the middle of Mexico City, the taxis will be this colour of pink. They like that colour of pink. You'll see that particular colour of pink on things. And Tuxtla, that's where we're at the moment. And you can see Gutierrez, that's the name that you'll find in Mexico. Chiapas, that's the region that we're in at the moment. So Tuxtla Gutierrez is the town, Chiapas is the region. This is the region flag, this is the region colours. And Calle tells you that we're speaking Spanish. So we're in this southern part of Mexico, which is usually unique. I can't find any typical buildings, but they've still got the kind of flat Spanish roofy architecture on some of them on this thing that might remind you of old movies. They've got same taxes. You can see that thing, which is a different type of pole, which is the Mexican pole. It's got kind of a D on it, but it's got a line that separates it. Again, the same water barrels on the roofs as well, white, and that separates it from somewhere like Brazil, because in Brazil they speak Portuguese, so all the signs will be in Portuguese. And so if you're looking at Portuguese but you're not in Portugal, then you're probably looking at Brazil. And the Brazil poles have got these slots on them, they're called ladder poles, and the ladders go shorter as they climb up them. The Brazilians like to paint them white at the bottom, and they've also got what I like to call tap poles, which are poles that look like they've got a light sticking out of them like a tap, and that's a good example. Tap at the top and the four set on the side. Tap poles, which is typical of Brazil. Now in Brazil, it's a region where if you get a phone code, it helps. So let's see if we can find any phone codes on anything. As soon as you ascertain that it's Brazil, because they're speaking Portuguese, you can see the C with a line under it, and we've also got a phone code 63. So looking at Brazil, it goes 90, 80, 70, 60, so 63 would usually put it in Mato Grosso. So 90, 80, 70, 60, 50s at the bottom, and then 40 and 30. 20 I think is around here somewhere, so the phone code would put us somewhere around that area of the map, Mato Grosso, and that's how you would do Brazil. If you're in Guatemala, then you've got the car, the Guatmobile, and as soon as I see the Guatmobile anywhere, I just click on Guatemala. So if we can get a good look at the Guatmobile, it's got a blurred out front to it, it's got two things on the side, and it's got all four things showing, but they've got little things on the end, little stoppers, and that's the Guatmobile. And you can see it's jungly, there's kind of jungle everywhere, mountains everywhere. It's got that kind of South American vibe to it. It's got kind of these low slung houses, and speaking Spanish or whatever, but you always see the Guat car. So if it's kind of tropical, Guatemala is pretty easy. If you're in Costa Rica, well, you'll only be in some parts of Costa Rica, and that's usually what I like to call pavement footage. If you're on the pavement and you're actually on the road, then you're in Costa Rica. You can see it's kind of jungly, but you're on a pavement. If you look at Panama, then the Panama car has got usually a corkscrew upon it, which narrows it down. And in Panama you'll see these kind of taxis with the red and the white on the back of it, not on the side. That gives it away. You also start to see license plates written on the side of cars as well. It's jungly, but we don't have the Guat car. We've got the corkscrew and the side numbers. That means we're in Panama. Even the word taxi is written on the side of the vehicle. That is opposed to Colombia, where if you put it somewhere in Colombia, you'll have these lines, the yellow lines with yellow eyes running in the middle of them, and all of the vehicles will have yellow number plates, which again means you can narrow it down all the way to Colombia. That's got a white one on the front, that's got a yellow one on the front, but they will all have yellow number plates on the back. So see this utility vehicle, well I say that, and that one's got a white one, but that's actually looks like it's coming in from a different town. That's a yellow one. So that kind of gives it away that with this jungly atmosphere and these taxis, then you're going to be in Colombia. And the utility vehicles again have got the license plates on the side, and also the town that they were from, Jarmel. So that's nowhere near where we are at the moment. And again, you start to see the red and the white. It's not everywhere, but you start to see it. And I think we speak maybe Portuguese, if I'm not mistaken, so maybe you'll start to see that in Colombia. I'm not quite sure, it could be Spanish actually. Oh, and then the other thing is the Colombian cross. If you see any sign whatsoever, if it's got a cross behind it, it will be in Colombia. So you see that sign with a cross behind it, that's the Colombia cross, and that tells you that you're in Colombia. That applies to all signs. Now, so what shape they are, if I could find another sign I'd probably be able to show you, but the Colombian cross definitely gives it away, and the black and yellow B shape of the sign there, it's usually going to be in Colombia. The only other place it could be, if you see those license plates on the sides of vehicles, is it could be Ecuador. But in Ecuador they usually write them nice and big, and in we've got the Equa car. It's got a light on the back of it, so it means we're not in Rwanda, which is a place that I forgot to visit. It's got things on the side, but they're not white, and it's starting to get even more of those red and white everywhere. You'll see them on the back of everything. So here it looks like they're speaking Spanish with the Y in the middle of it, and in Ecuador it's kind of like a poor man's Colombia. Really, most of Ecuador is really poor. So if you see the light behind it like that, that's almost unique to Ecuador. It will have crazy hexagonal paving on a few of the roads, the roads everywhere, and that's Colombia or Ecuador. But it's basically poorer than you might expect. So yeah, if it's got a light on the thing, then you're either in Rwanda, which is actually covered on the map, surprisingly, and the light on the back, you can see it's a different car with a different light, but if you see that light, then you're in Rwanda. And Brazil will have blue water barrels on the top of the buildings, which are in kind of a flat shape, like a bath, a big round flat shape like that. So as soon as you see the blue ones, then you know you're in Brazil. Otherwise this could look like Ecuador, but it's not Ecuador, it's Brazil. And if you're in Peru, that's very obvious. Peru is one of the easiest places in the world. So let's see if we can turn that into reality. We start to get the chili car coming in Peru, and Botanica, and they'll be speaking Spanish because it's got a Y in it. If it had the tail, then we'd usually be in Brazil because that would be in Portuguese. So let's just take a look around in case we forget where we are. This should be, well, obviously if you know the Peru flag, then that helps. And a lot more of these trucks going around, but I can't see any black and white poles. I can see these up here, which give away that you're on, well, usually somewhere in South America. Those, but those you don't tend to find anywhere else in the world. Another Toyota pickup truck. And so in the Peru, everywhere will have the black and white poles everywhere, which you can't actually see any of at the moment. Usually, so I can't see those. The utility poles, well, are pretty weird with these pretty weird things. You'll see those in Argentina, of course. Peru, oh there you go, that's a black and white Peru flag pole thing, which you'll see everywhere. Tuk-tuks make a return. You'll see plenty of tuk-tuks in Peru. You'll see a crossing sign, but it's not the skier in Peru. And on top of the utility poles, there should be round top like a pencil. On all of the utility poles that are actually that have got wires wrapped around them, they're usually round top like a pencil in Peru. Of course, I can't find much evidence of that on this footage, but you can take it that that is a fact. Usually, if you find just a pole with wires wrapped around it, it'll usually have a round top. Of course, round here I can't see any, but it'll usually have a pencil roundy top. And look at that, that's definitely from round here, isn't it? So everything in Peru, that's Peru architecture. Koch is definitely something that you'll see in Peru. Stuff like that. Well, you can see these weird poles. And if we look at Lima, which is probably one of the most identifiable cities in the world, they've got the Lima lamps which arcs out like that on the poles. You'll find those everywhere, and you can see some tuk-tuks everywhere. You don't see those in many places in the world. You see the same really weird Argentinian poles, but they're not in Argentina, because if they're in Argentina they'd be completely different again. So let's have a look at the Argentine poles and see if we can spot anything. I'm just going to put it in the middle of nowhere, because you never know with this game. And we seem to be in the middle of a city in Argentina. So what you'll find with Argentina is this kind of clay soil everywhere, and the big poles made out of solid concrete. So everything's solid concrete in Argentina, especially the big poles. And if you find one of those, which seems to be rare, then you know it's Argentina. They also use the same kind of thing there, but not quite. It's slightly different. In Argentina you'll find vast tracts of the landscape which go on and on and on in one particular direction, which usually means in that place you'll find the houses are getting flatter and flatter all the time, although there are some sea water which is similar to that in Mexico, but we're not in Mexico. They're all white. You're in Argentina, and these kind of single story kind of buildings made out of this really kind of grey kind of material. The greyness is definitely what you'll find. The massive concrete poles is what you'll find in Argentina, and the roof barrels as well. Sometimes they've got solar panels on them to catch solar panels, but that's definitely this single story favela is typical to that side of Argentina, as it is in Uruguay, which looks pretty similar to Argentina for most of it. Uruguay, it's kind of a rundown version of Argentina. You'll find pretty similar stuff, but you won't find the massive Argentinian poles, because this is Uruguay. And it looks pretty similar over on this side of the country. By the time you get into the capital, Montevideo, you'll find black signs and this kind of flat roof. You'll find that everywhere in Montevideo. It's kind of a rundown thing. It's very grey, so it's even greyer than Argentina. They all have, you know, plenty of Toyota Hilux pickup trucks everywhere. You can see these really flat buildings and these flat roofs. This tells you, usually with these signs and that font, if you see a taxi with Grand Prix stripes running along it, then you can only be in Montevideo. And I think it's kind of like the Chile car. You'll see these road markings as well. But anyway, that's Uruguay. It's pretty recognisable. And the Chile car we've mentioned already. Chile, it's a very dry landscape, but it's kind of, well, it's kind of a Malta dry, if you can imagine Malta dry. But we're not in Malta. It looks like we're in Malta, but we've got these typical black Chilean road signs. That's not the typical font, but they are usually black. The different coloured houses is back in Chile as well. And we've got the Chile car, which has the red thing at the back and the big thing there. So we're in Chile. You can see it's kind of flat, but we're starting to get red rocks. These red rocks looks like a moon landscape, so you can see it. This is starting to remind me now of, and they like putting the town names everywhere as well. This is starting to remind me more of Bolivia, because we are quite near Bolivia, but not quite. And it looks like Chilean flag. Cali. These different bollards. I mean, the concrete, yeah, but they're not as concrete as you might expect. So the hills tell you they've got blue signs. So in the north of the country there might be blue. That's another Chilean flag. Looks like one star on it. So that tells you you're in Chile. And similar South American kind of buildings as well. And if you were in Bolivia, you would see mostly buildings made out of dark red bricks, because that's what they've got there, the dark red. It's the hexagonal pavements back again from Ecuador, but we're not in Ecuador because we've got, well, it's a similar shit can with the dark colours, but we're not in Ecuador. So let's have a look, see if we can find where we are. And sometimes these places look pretty similar, but, well, these stripy taxis that you'll definitely find here in Bolivia, these minibus type things, the buses are very unique looking to Bolivia. Obviously the signs will be Bolivian Centro. So this could be, if I was just looking at this, it could be Chile, it could be northern Argentina, but we have got the Chile car. And we have got blue signs here in the north. Well, in Bolivia we've got blue signs, we've got that weird pavement. It's back again. Bolivia, so it doesn't have the same utility poles. Obviously I can't see what I'm looking for, but usually on the edges of town somewhere you'll find these brick buildings that are just built from the brick soil, and this is typical Bolivia. That's, well, no, that's not a Bolivian bus. Bolivian taxi, and the people of Bolivia with these hats on. That's typical dress of Bolivia, with that hat on and these skirts on. So if you start seeing those hats, you could be in Chile or Bolivia. We don't see any of the red and white around the utility vehicles like you see in Peru. All that's gone, so we're not in Peru. We know we can't be in Peru. So that's Bolivia with the mud buildings. If you're down at the bottom of Chile, then it's going to be pretty. You can see, well, with different kind of buildings. This looks more like, if you're looking at this, you'd think, oh well, we're in Norway. Obviously, it's got the Norway buildings, it's got the Norway hills, it's got, you know, everything's Norway, but it just feels wrong because we're obviously in southern Chile. So the camera footage down here is always bad. White license plates, you can see, because we're in Chile. There should be white markings in the road because we're in Chile, which I can't find. But this kind of gloomy thing down here, it's more Spanish. If it looks like, well, this Chilean flag, if it looks like you're in Norway but it's dark and gloomy, and that could be anywhere in South America, that image, then you've got to be down here in southern Chile. It's very mountainous and everything's spread out. Same with southern Argentina. It's going to be gloomy, it's going to be grey with the Argentinian grey colour. You can have the concrete poles everywhere with that weird thing going on, and it's going to be Argentina. But usually the footage is a lot greyer than this, which tells you that you're in kind of the southern hemisphere. It tells you if the sky is a lot blue like this, blue, that means the weather is cold. So for example, if we did have a look at Norway with all those typical red buildings everywhere, and red cabins that we can find hopefully in Norway, which, well, alright then, that's more of a Swedish thing, but you know what I mean. You still got that cabiny type of Norway thing, but the sky is often a very dark blue because it's cold. So looking at this, it could be Iceland, but it's actually Norway. And if you look at Sweden, then usually if you're not in the middle of town somewhere, the buildings will be red and they start to get redder. We've got red roofs on and things like that. And then by the time you get to Finland, then the buildings are very spread out. Usually if you're not in the middle of a town. I seem to be very unlucky every single time I pick somewhere on this map. But I can't see any of the typical red buildings here in Finland, but we do have the Salt and Pepper Road. Salt and Pepper Road, Finland. These Finnish road signs. You'll have the toll guy on the zebra crossing sign. You'll have Finnish language, ends in, well, FI for Finland, and a lot of other places in Finland all end in an I. So you see I, ski I, or an A, anything that ends in I, usually in Finland. In Luxembourg, you might think Luxembourg is completely and utterly impossible because it just looks like Germany, and there's nothing on here that tells you that you're in Luxembourg, so you could be in anywhere. But if we have a look at maybe some of the signs or some of the poles, that sign with the frame around it means you're in Luxembourg. That thing, non-knee bent belt on it, the black, the blue and the white means Luxembourg. And when you leave a town, if we can actually leave a town, it will give us a sign which has got the frame around it, so it's Luxembourg. It also tells you the road number that we're on. We're on the CR123. We're entering Crutchten. Great. So that's unique to Luxembourg. You'll have the Luxembourg crest on there, which is similar to Malta, but it's blue. And you'll also find 3 screws in the Luxembourg sign, which tells you that you're in Luxembourg. So that means you can't be in Germany, you can't be in Austria. So, well, that's most of Europe, it looks like. Obviously, if you're in Russia, then everywhere is going to look pretty similar. You're going to find Russian language everywhere. You're going to find the man with the 3 on it. And if you see his back leg closer to the back, almost touching the back one, his back leg, that means you're in Russia. And the front leg is in the middle of the first 2. If the front leg was closer to the front one, then you'd be in Lithuania. You can see Russian type buildings, and this is, well, it's not typical Russia, because you can also find this architecture in Hungary and things like that, but you can see it's that side of Europe. You only have this kind of architecture, kind of fake Roman tenement-y architecture on this side of Europe. They don't have the window flaps made out of wood, so you're not in southern Europe, you're in Russia. You can see these crossings with the different colours on there, yellow and white, that's Russia. And you won't find any European license plates because we're in Russia, so we're in the built-up area. And sometimes you might see maybe a bit of red on those things. It's obviously got Russian language as well. So at this point you could definitely tell that it's the western side of Russia, because if it was on the other side it would look completely different. If you were on the other side of Russia, you'd be looking at different trees. Oh, this looks more like Turkey actually, and it's usually a lot darker, a lot greener, and different architecture. You can't see any of that fake Rome stuff. It's looking tenement-y, which you get all over Russia. You'll find the wooden poles and plenty of A-frame poles as well in Russia, and different styles of architecture. That's looking quite tenement-y. Back leg is close to the back there, even though we're on the other side of Russia. So at least that tells you where you are in Russia. If you're in Estonia, then usually if you're in kind of a side street or whatever, you'll find kind of a bluey reddy texture to this salt and pepper pavement. And Estonia, you'll find the roads have got kind of reddy, gravelly kind of a Estonia feel. Unique signs, of course. In Estonia you'll find dotted lines. These dotted lines there, you find those all over Estonia. If we were in Sweden, somewhere out in the middle of nowhere hopefully, isn't a path, you would find the dotted lines, but it's got a different architecture. And if you were in Norway, you would usually find a yellow line in the middle of the road and thicker, longer dotted lines on the side of the road, or, well, sometimes the longer ones are in Sweden, but definitely this yellow line here gives it away that you're in Norway, and that red pole sticking out of the ground tells you that it's snowy. So anyway, you could be in, if it's kind of a deserty region, you could be in the United Arab Emirates, which has got unique colours. You're looking at English and Arabic and whatever else they can throw in as well. You'll find the chili car is back, but we're in the middle of the desert with kind of a Grand Prix thing next to it, which they love using, those different colours. And you can see that we are in kind of a deserty landscape, but the language is Arabic and there's loads of owls everywhere. So if you see Arabic and it's this kind of sand, this isn't Malta, so it can't be Tunisia. It's looking more like we're in the United Arab Emirates, which is kind of rich, so they've got decent, nice, big, wide, thick markers there, and nice red ones. Everything's kind of upper class and well paved, nice and clean. Everything's clean everywhere. And then you go to Oman, and it's like the same thing, only a bit dirtier. You can see the Oman poles here, which reminds me of Peru. You've got the same Arabic, but a different kind of language underneath. And Oman, you'll find the corkscrew top on the car, which is another giveaway. We're in the middle of a desert, which gives it away. The desert is light, so you could be in Tunisia, but there's no green Tunisia for car. You've got an Oman taxi and the corkscrew aerial, these Oman lights. Sometimes you see those somewhere. You've got the flag as well, gives it away. And you're looking at dark faces, but it's not Africa, so you think, well, if I can't see the follow car and things like that, then we must be in that kind of a region. And Google isn't in any other region really, Jeddah, stuff like that. It's only a smattering of coverage. If you're in India, it's going to be dark red soil for the most of it and shit cam. So this is the Indian shit cam, and it's blurry. You will have lots of things written in English. You will have this kind of trident, typical Indian pole. Everything will be washed out and unreadable. You will have Indian language, which has got the bar on top of it rather than underneath of it. And you will have that symbol, which is kind of the peace symbol, which looks like an apple. And red soil everywhere, lots of litter everywhere, and Indian people. If you were over in Gujarat in India, then you'd find pretty similar stuff, except you'd find tuk-tuks, and these you can find in New Delhi and all the way over to the east. In fact, tuk-tuks in India, but these ones with the yellow and the green. And in Gujarat, well, we can see some English there, which isn't very helpful, but they have their own language, which you can see on the signs. And as soon as you see the Gujarati language on the signs, which is kind of like broken Arabic, then you know you're there. If you're in south, then you'll see this other sign, which is like a curly kind of a language. That means you're in southern India. If it's got this big long aerial, you're in southern India again, with similar tuk-tuks, which tells you that you're in this area of the world. English everywhere, and this weird roundy language, looks like a load of snakes. This weird language, but it's not actually the language we're looking for. That's actually a local language. So if you see a weird Indian language, but you've still got the shit cam, you can see the Indian flag up there, and the weird washed out colours everywhere, and the trident poles and everything like that, then you're still in India. But if you see that weird circle language, and you also see different tuk-tuks, kind of greeny ones, and particularly these red ones, then that means you're in Sri Lanka. And you've got this real roundy kind of a language that can only be found in this part of the thing, but because it's kind of an English territory, you'll have things in English. So you've got things kind of written in an Urdu kind of language, in this round kind of language, and also in English as well. And that can only be found in Sri Lanka. You'll find these Sri Lanka poles with the 4 slots on there, 1, 2, 3, 4. And that's Sri Lanka pole. You find those language, these tuk-tuks and everything else tells you that you're in Sri Lanka, the shit cam. So everything tells you that you're in Sri Lanka at that point. And so moving around the world, if you're in Bangladesh, stick it somewhere in the west of Bangladesh in case we find some more western metas. But in Bangladesh you'll find more people riding motorcycles and things drawn by pedals. The language, you'll find Bengali, which has got this flag shape on it. There's another flag, there's a flag with a dot in front of it. So that's the Bengali language. It's pretty easy to spot, and of course it's almost unique to this area. That one's got another flag on it, and sometimes you also see that peace symbol. You can see somebody pedal carring something there. You'll see those all over the place. Somebody peddling something. So that's more of the language. It's got another flag on it, and the flag's got a symbol above it that gives it away. And this is that peace symbol again that kind of looks like an apple. It's got a flag next to it. So you're in Bangladesh, or you could be in East India. And Bangladesh, we see these things, but we also see usually lots of pedal cars and people pedaling things from A to B, pedal trucks and things like that. I've seen a whole forest on the back of a pedal car before now. Let's see if we can find one. Tuk-tuks and transport. Well, we did see one, but I missed it. Oh, there you go. So it's kind of like that, and they put everything on the back of one of them. You'll usually see that in this part of the world. And on the other side of Bangladesh, well, there isn't anything there, so I won't bother putting it there. Once you get down to, let's see, Bhutan is right on the border. That again has unique architecture, has stacked architecture. Everything's stacked on top of each other, stacked up high. There's typical Bhutan, and everything will have a window ledge or a window top that's got this weird brick kind of architecture to it. Every single building in Bhutan will have some kind of window top that's made out of that weird thing, and got the stacked architecture. It's very hilly in Bhutan, of course. And let's check out the language. That's a different language again, but it's kind of European here in Bhutan, but it's a different language again. The architecture really gives it away. The red roofs, the red license plates you can see here in Bhutan. They've got their own language, which is like Indian but not quite. And the Bhutanese, they'll have their own kind of dress as well. This looks like a monk, but they will have their own kind of dress and their own kind of Bhutanese kind of a uniform that they wear typically. Like obviously the Indians have their own uniform as well. Bhutanese is quite colourful, and again they all look like Jedi Masters. Stacked architecture, high hills, tons of forest, loads of stuff like that is typical of Bhutan. But they'll also have the square road markers around everywhere, which I did see, but miraculously I just clicked away from. They're like square concrete slabs of stone that mark the edges of roads, and typically I can't see any, but you'll find those in Bhutan similar to that, but they're actually individual blocks on the sides of the roads. All of Bhutan is either in a valley or something like that, So you can see where we are again with the uniform, and that contrasts to, for example, if we were in Pakistan, which has only got one major city covered in there. If we did manage to find at some point something in Pakistan that reminds us of anything, then we might get to, well, the uniform that they wear, which is like that kind of clothing, but it's got a flap on the back of it. Typically I can't see anything, but Pakistanis have got their own uniform. It's got a flap on the back of their coats. So by the time you get to Taiwan, everything script wise is looking like snakes. So if you look at the Taiwanese, it's like a snake, but it's got loads of holes in it like the head of the snake. Snakes everywhere. And that is what you'll find everywhere in Thailand. So Thailand has also got more of these, but it's the language that really gives it away. As soon as you see that kind of snaky language, it can only really be in Thailand, and they all have their own dialects as well, of which is local to this region. There's the Thai flag, in case you're in any doubt, and Thai colours on the poles, motorbikes everywhere, and they will usually have a road sign at junctions telling you where you are and telling you the road that you're on. Of course, these things are indicative, so that tells you that you're in Thailand. While if you're in Cambodia, then you can have a different architecture with spikes on the top of it. This is halfway between Thailand and kind of like a Chinese kind of architecture, but those spikes on the roofs and overhanging kind of spikes on roofs is typical Cambodia. They'll have a different type of tuk-tuk sometimes, which is going on, which is unique to Cambo. Different writing as well, and the Cambodian writing, well, you can see on the map, it's completely different to any other type of writing, but it's pretty similar in some ways that it is to the snakes that we've seen, although we can't see any snake heads on this writing. So it's going to be Cambo. It's also going to be Cambo palms as well, out in the middle of the sticks, if you can find any areas, which I can't obviously, which are like Cambo pom-pom palms, which is like a palm tree that's like in a pom-pom shape. But that's how you get usually Cambo from the language. If you're in Malaysia, then most of the poles will have a black tab on them. Obviously, if it doesn't put me in the middle of a stupid area, you can usually just go to the road, look at a pole, and it will have a big black sticker on there. And if you see that big black sticker on a pole, which this doesn't have one typically, then that tells you that you're in central Malaysia. So let's see if we can spot anything. Well, there's a big Malaysian flag there for one thing, that tells you. It's got a white sticker on it, but usually they'll have a black sticker on there. It tells you that you're in the middle of Malaysia. Malaysians' language are, again, it's quite different. You can see plenty of red taxis here, the signs, plenty of J's in there. They like to use the J's, Johor, and the P's as well. See this one, plenty of P's, J's, P, and Beoswa, Jalaz, Tungan. So if you start seeing this Bekalan, and stuff like that, then you're obviously looking at this language. And this probably doesn't tell us that we're in Kuala Lumpur. Well, that says Kuala Lumpur at the back. Jalan, stuff like that. You can see the flag, which looks a bit like an American flag. And the people are going to be different again. This looks a bit like a more colourful version of Romania at the moment, but I still can't see any Malaysian utility poles, which are dotted around everywhere. But again, you can see the Grand Prix style everywhere in this part of the world. That's pretty common. And the language definitely is what gives it away. As soon as you see a nice wealthy built up area with this kind of stuff going on, and it could be, well, it's not United Arab Emirates because it's too green, so this Grand Prix track kind of narrows it down, doesn't it? And for the final time, no, I can't see any typical Malaysian black pole. It's typical. Just like I probably won't see any satellite dishes now that we're in Sumatra, but usually the wealthier houses will have satellite dishes all pointing towards the sky, and kind of obvious that they're pointing directly upwards because Sumatra is near the equator. You'll start to see these red rusty roofs now appearing everywhere, and more people on bikes. If you look in the shop window, there'll be quite a lot of mobile phone advertisements in Sumatra. Usually every other thing is a mobile phone. And these symmetrical poles, you can see these palms now, which is a weird type of Sumatran palm tree. So we've definitely moved. The tuk-tuks with the weird thing on them are starting to appear, because people still use a lot of pedal, but mostly it's bikes, everywhere on bikes. As soon as you see this kind of foliage and people on bikes, then you usually think, oh, I mean, this is Indonesia. It's got to be Indonesia. And well, that's where we are. And as I look at the sign, you can see P's again, Perguan, S's again, Tuluk. You know, all these languages started to look pretty similar in that part of the world. If you are in Java, then it's pretty similar, but you'll see cigarette adverts everywhere. Every other advert is a cigarette advert in Java. So if you go down the street, look around, you'll see pretty similar languages, pretty similar to what we've already seen before, and using the same letters, the same bikes going around are similar. This time they've got red helmets on, which they don't tend to wear in other places. And so that's it. If you're looking at that, you think, oh well, we're in the middle of Dalem, Pershguan, oh well, it must be Malaysia. We can see the things, we can see that language, but it isn't, because the sides of the pavements are completely different here, and other things like that you get used to. If you're in Bali, then usually it tells you in Bali, no matter where you go, there'll be a sign with Bali written on it. Again, predominantly people with motorcycles around the place. And Indonesia tells you there. Again, the cigarette advertising everywhere. And if you see Marikok, you can see Karina Marikok, that's their name for smoking. So if you see Marikok on any of these signs, then you must be in this kind of an area. You'll see more banana trees over in Bali, and more of an upper class kind of a atmosphere than the kind of lower classier places. You'll still see the tin roofs, the rusty tin roofs, but they'll be upkept and in good quality. That reminds me of Cambodia, or the Cambodia roofs, but that's probably because it's a Cambodian restaurant. If I have a look at that, and that's probably why. That's an Indonesian flag. So usually tells you if we're in Bali somewhere, and it's not actually telling us anything, but you can see it's more upper class than what we've seen so far. If we change our mind and look at Sulawesi, you'll find in the upper class regions tons of these signs. It's a Christians, you'll find churches dotted around, and the satellites, the clear satellites that are pointing straight up to the sky, you'll find that all around. But the main thing about Sula are these coconut palms. You'll find coconut palms everywhere. That's the one with the smooth trunk that goes all the way to the top. Well, that looks more like a royal palm. That's a royal palm. These are royal palms actually. But usually if it's got a smooth trunk that goes all the way to the top of it, you'll find tons of them in Sula. More smoking advertisements. The rusty roofs, and you'll start to see houses on stilts because the place floods out. So I can't see too much on this part of Sula. More of those satellite dishes, the rusty roofs, and yeah, the coconut palms. Usually if you see oil palms, then let's just have a look at this. See if we've got any oil palms anywhere. Often you'll find rows and rows of oil palms in the oil palm region where they farm those. That's an oil. That's a royal palm. That's not an oil palm. So typically, that's kind of like a Campbell pom-pom palm. That is a coconut palm. It's kind of like a pom-pom palm, only bigger. You can see the coconut palms everywhere with the smooth trunk that goes all the way to the top. And I can't actually see because every time it drops us down on somewhere, it drops us down on somewhere that's massively populated. But well, let's try down here. Sometimes I find oil palms down here if it's out there in the middle of nowhere, which I can't seem to find at the moment. But coconuts, bananas, and not a single oil palm, which has got a big stem, which is nice and big, and it's got ridges all over it, and it's a big thick oil palm, which I can't actually find. But anyway, the coconut line runs kind of like this, and the oil palms as well. So sometimes you can find them in Thailand, sometimes you can find them in Cambodia, but the oil palms, which I can't find, so I'm going to give up, are a lot bigger. So we've covered Indo. If you're in Sabah, all the way up there, then they'll have Sabah poles, which are pretty unique, which I'm guaranteed not to find. Looks like it's got a particular flag, and obviously I'm not going to find any of the poles that I'm looking for in this video. But the Sabah poles are like poles that go across the top, and then there's a pole underneath it, and then it's connected by an N, a weird N shape, which I'm obviously not going to find. But those are the Sabah poles in Sabah, unique to that region. And then I'm probably not going to find a Noosa pole either. which are unique to the Noosa region. There it is, which is 3 on top and only 1 to one side. That's a Noosa pole. Again, we can find the same crappy roofs, the same electoral posters, and the same Indonesian flags, the Noosa poles, the same bananas, A-frames are appearing now. So if you were just looking at this with the bananas, you wouldn't know where you are, but as soon as you see a Noosa pole, that basically covers these islands around here. So that's that. New Guinea, I'm not very good at, so let's move on to Australia. If you're over here, then the soil is going to be rich red, usually. Kind of that coloury rich red, no matter where you go. You can see the bins, and it tells you Cambridge Sumo, so it's Western Australia. Here in Western Australia they use different cars, which you'll find. It's different to the American cars, they've got different number plates, but you can see they're all flip-top bins, but they're narrower, and they've got different, some of them red, some of them yellow, some of them green, and that's kind of an Australian thing. You'll see Hyundai cars, Mitsubishi cars, so we're getting to the this is typical Australia, red on the roads. It's another Honda, and the black and white reminding us of the UK because we're in Australia. The bins again. I can't see a single Australia bollard, which is the one thing that you need to find in Australia to tell you that it's Australia, but it looks like it's Australian. Everything about it, these low slung houses, everything about it looks Australian. Eucalyptus trees, it's typical Australia. Obviously you'll find things all around, but I'm not actually finding a single road bollard. So anyway, if it's red, it's usually around there. If it's not red, then it could be around here. Brisbane. Now you can see the soil should hopefully be a bit lighter in colour. Obviously it's put me in the middle of urban suburbia, which is precisely not the area they wanted to see, because they're using the red brick to simulate Australia, but it is known for red, so can't write it off altogether. Sign there for Brisbane, again the black and white road markings there. Green signs here in Australia. Green wooden utility poles as well. They look like date palms. It's another date palm, which you'll generally see in Spain and things like that. See the ridges running all the way up it. That's a date palm. The oil palms are a lot thicker than that. So yeah, this is Australia. It's typical Australia, this style of architecture. These bins are on the other side of the country, and there they are again. Usually if it's slightly darker looking footage, you'll be in Sydney. Obviously if you're in the middle of suburbia, it's going to tell you that you're in Sydney. So I'm trying to give you these bins again. It's that Toyota Hilux again. That thing follows us around. So if you're looking at that, you're thinking, oh, is that Argentina? These buildings, oh, the shutters, is that Central Europe? The pink, is that Mexico? That red, does that mean we're in and you can use the curses, by the way, to move around. Does that mean we're in Colombia? Well, no, it doesn't, because we're in Australia, and they used that, which I've just missed, that type of car, which as far as I know is called a ute, or a utility vehicle. So that's unique to Australia. They speak English, of course, in Australia, so you'll see plenty of references to that. I can't see any of the green utility poles, but we have seen the bins, same bins, and the architecture looks American. And these white crossings, that's either Saskatchewan, or we're in the middle of downtown Sydney. There's another ute. That weird kind of a car, which they do have a name for it, but I can't remember off the top of my head. You'll only see that around here. And the English kind of crossing signs as well. That's because this isn't obviously England. You won't see these English crossing signs in America, so it has to be Australia. And in New Zealand, you'll tend to see blue signs rather than green. There you go, with arrows on them. It's all a lot darker because we're all a lot further around the world. We're in New Zealand, it's got different bins, it's got different cars, it's got different street signs, again, blue arrows. Here in New Zealand, it's English, it's got a similar kind of low slung architecture everywhere. But the fact that the arrows are blue gives it away. You've got this dark blue, which means it's colder, and it's all in English, so it kind of gives it away that it's New Zealand. And if you're in the North Island of New Zealand, let's drop it in the middle of nowhere, you find these fences all over because it's very windy. They put the fences very close together. I mean very close together. So that tells you that you're in New Zealand. You also see these rolling hills as well, these rolling hobbit hills. That's typical of northern New Zealand. As soon as you see any rolling hills like that, they're all over North New Zealand. Whereas in the south of New Zealand, it's either going to be flat, or you can have big hills with snow on them. So let's have a look at this. Alright, then I can't see any snow. We have got the big hills, we've got the New Zealand flag, and we've got the same crossing signs, but we're not carrying handbags. Got New Zealand kind of licensing plates. And we've got the New Zealand white markings on the road, the New Zealand triangle. But it would be very easy to mistake this for America with the trailer parks and everything else. But usually the poles aren't green. Obviously this one is, so they're usually greener in Australia, unless you are around the Adelaide area, in which case there'll be an amalgamation of concrete and wood known as a Stobie pole. This is concrete in the middle and wood on the outside, so that's that. They're all around Adelaide. Or you find a rusty pole that's completely rusty like this, then you're going to be towards the middle or the north of Australia, because that's what they look like, from the middle of it to the north of it. And green poles around here and down there. It's pretty red as well. So let's have a look. If you're in Guam, then it's going to look like America or Florida. It's going to have the palm trees, it's going to have amazing beaches, of course. But if you're in Guam, if I'm not in the middle of a hotel, you should be able to see tons of palm trees everywhere. These fan palms. That's a royal palm. And you can see the sides of the road. painted in red there, sometimes painted in yellow. It look like America, only it's full of palm trees. You won't see the double yellow line in the middle of the road, but you'll see American type signs. And you'll think, hold on, whereabouts in America are we? This doesn't look like America. That's because we're in Guam. So you can't see the car or anything like that, but definitely Guam footage will be coming up in the game. And if you're somewhere around in the middle of the planet, it might take you to Midway, which is a bird sanctuary. So if you're anywhere in Midway at all, you'll see these dodo birds, and the dodo birds are all over the old Midway colony. It doesn't matter where you go in Midway, because it's an animal sanctuary and there's no wolves and there's no rats. They basically multiply in their millions, so you can't mistake Midway Island for any other island in the game. Moving now over to Hawaii, usually we'll get plenty of shit cam in Hawaii. Let's have a look more like near Honolulu, which is a lot better camera quality. Again, it'll look like America, but you won't have the double yellow lines in the middle of the road. You'll have the American style signs on the thing, which tells you the highway number. H1 is in Hawaii because it's Hawaii, it's got H in front of it. Pearl Harbor tells you where you are. Exit 19B tells you where you are. And you might find some Hawaii number plates. You'll find more of the palm trees. And you might think, whereabouts am I in America? This looks American, this looks American. Well, if it's too tropical, you'll either be in Hawaii or you could be in Florida. So you can see this barrier by the side of the road, a concrete barrier. I don't think you'll find too many of them in Florida. You'll see that everywhere. So that tells us that we're in Hawaii. If you didn't know the coconuts and everything else, but usually the footage in Hawaii tends to be of the lower quality, and you can see this grainy cam still with the palm trees, with the Hawaii car, with the American signs. That's got kind of a Chilean one-way sign on it, but don't be fooled by that. United States Post Office tells you that you're in somewhere special. And this kind of architecture says that you're either in South America or you're in Hawaii. So that covers them. And then that leaves America. If you're in Alaska, you might expect to see maybe some tall mountains somewhere, but not necessarily, because Alaska looks like plenty of other places. And you're in America, you've got the double yellow lines. And you've got the green American signs, but there isn't much in Alaska that tells you that you're in Alaska, except for the fact everything's really barren and there isn't really much to see here. This is also reminiscent of Alberta and that kind of thing. You can see these street signs have got rounded corners and different things like that. There's a Columbia cross there that you might find in Alaska, which is the cross on the side of this, on the back of the sign. And the sun is pointing south. That means we're in the northern hemisphere. So if you were in British Columbia, then you'd expect to see plenty of pine trees everywhere, maybe the Canadian flag, and dark redwood kind of poles. Flag Canada, lots of Royal Legion things from all over, definitely in this part of Canada and Alberta as well. You've got the Alberta skier, even though we're here in British Columbia, known as BC. The white skier pole, which helps to tell you that you're in Canada. Canadian flag. And if you find a sign, then usually, if I can find a sign, if we look at the back of it, it'll be green here in BC, and that's a giveaway in BC that we are actually in BC. That it'll be green. I can't see any green back signs, but they are there. Another thing is maximum 50. Sometimes you'll write something underneath that in BC. It tells you that you're in British Columbia, and that's pretty unique to BC. Starting to see the red fire hydrants coming in, and the pine trees, things like that. So there's plenty of giveaways for BC. Also the concrete barriers as well by the side of the road. That's almost unique to British Columbia in this part of the world. The concrete barriers that we've seen already. Here in Alberta, then you won't find any concrete barriers by the side of the road because they don't use them. If you can find a highway, if you can find any barriers, you can see there aren't any. The Alberta pole is there again, the black, the white and the black. That tells you that you're in Alberta. These double yellow lines running down the middle of the road, it tells you that you're in the Americas. So we know we're somewhere in Alberta, in the Americas. And instead of barriers, what they have is chains. They actually have a chain that runs along the side of the road instead of a barrier. And if you see any of those chains that are held together with concrete and things like that, of course, are spectacularly, well, there they are, that you can't actually see them. There are chains by the side of the road instead of barriers. That tells you that you're in Alberta. And these as well, these things, the red things, pretty unique to Alberta. The rumble strips as well, we haven't seen too many of those on the footage so far, but they are in the middle of the road here. And because we know we're in Canada, if we look at the speed sign, it will say maximum speed. If it's an actual maximum speed sign, but it says Cram for highways highway, that's a sign that only appears in Alberta. So it tells us that we're in Alberta. Looking at Saskatchewan, it's probably going to be either greener or drier. And let's just have a look to see if anything gives it away. We've got green signs here in Saskatchewan. We should have either yellow or red fire hydrants. You see those yellow or red, the same skier. And we're down to a crossing sign. Well, we are in Sask, but there is actually a crossing there. So you'll see the man and woman with handbags sign on the side of the road for a crossing. In Sask, sometimes you'll see a triangle on signs poking out. It tells you that you're in Sask straight away. If it's in the north, it might be a lot greener. If it's in the south, then it won't. And you see that kilograms, no idea why that's there. Pretty unique. And well, I can't see any tabs, but that's a giveaway for Saskatchewan. There'll also be the Alberta poles here, but it's usually the yellow fire hydrants that give it away. Not that I've noticed any of them. And Sask, obviously you'll start to find these pine trees, variants of different pine trees growing, and you'll start to see the first maple tree. So we can't be too far outside of Canada if you can see maple trees. And so that's that. Everything basically gives it away if you know what you're looking at. Maximum 5,000 kilograms. I've never seen that anywhere, but that's maximum. Strange. I've never seen that anywhere, but that's Saskatchewan. Usually it'll be a wide open plain full of nothing, or full of wheat and things like that. If it's full of wheat and it's a wide open plain full of nothing, usually it could be in the middle of Montana, because that's actually a dry region as well. Once we cross into America, you can see the American double yellow lines, and you see speed limit. Montana is dry and it stretches out for a long period of time. It's kind of like a desert. So that kind of tells you whereabouts you are. If you're looking at California, then obviously it looks like a rich, affluent place with it being California. But if we can find any architecture whatsoever, in California the poles have all got these 3 lines on them, like the Sankara stones. That's where they got it from. Every pole, no matter where it is, it's in California, it'll have those 3 lines on there. And rocks, pretty unique. Plenty of rocks by the sides of the road and driveways, but that gives away the California. They might also have a yellow plate as well, and on the top they might have some words written on the crossbar to warn people about climbing them. So that'll have like a yellow sticker with a number written on it there, or it'll be on the top pole over here. Redwoods again, remind me of Redwood, California. Different type bins, and California. It's pretty recognisable. If it's deserty, you'll be in the south. And if you're in Idaho, for example, let's see if we can see something for Idaho. Every region will be completely different. So that's got the rounded, you can see on the green, the rounded signs for Idaho. Does it have... well, it kind of does. In Idaho you'll find Idaho poles, which mean the utilities are always on the bottom of it, like the phone wires, and the electricity is always on the top of it. So I can't really see a good example. I'm struggling to get in the main road here, but usually the Idaho poles, which is split, some of them are more split than others. Obviously you'll see these bins as well, whatever you call them, these barrels on the side of a lot. They like to use at least 3 barrels here in Idaho. That gives it away. Street signs as well, state signs, gives it away. Rounded corners, you can see. But the name Idaho is split into 2, so you can find an Idaho pole, which is a utility that's been split into 2, and that kind of gives it away. But typically I can't find anything. The Idaho water things here will also have a light, kind of a stick poking out of the side of them, the fire hydrants. So that's to be red and they've got a stick next to them. So that's not unique, but that helps to point the way. And you can see it's pretty dry here, so we didn't see too many Idaho poles. Wyoming, that's probably going to be northern desert type thing, but white fire hydrants here. You'll see the man and woman with handbags again, that's typical of North America. State law and all this going on, that's Wyoming. You'll see regional flag, and these red dots here on the driveways, red there, and then you can see another one there, and big wide crossing sign. That's different again from what we've seen already. Street signs packed with information, usually means they're usually bigger than we've seen already, with a bigger font than we've seen already. And again, white fire hydrants, and the poles have the yellow on there, but they only have the yellow sticker. They don't have the 3, these poles. So that kind of gives it away where we are at the moment. Nevada, Utah. Once we start getting through the Rockies, then things start to get more deserty as we carry on going. So here we can see the 3 bins as well, but it's not a split pole. We don't have a split. Well, we do, because that's utilities and that's electricity, but it's not a typical. We've got an even bigger font here, and in Utah they've got a specific name, and that will also tell us where we are around the county, which is pretty weird. But if we look at Utah and we look at, I don't know, something like this, zoom into it, then all the street names you can see: East 20, East 300, East 100, Main Street, East 100 North, East 200 North, and that'll tell you wherever you are in the city. So if we look at Provo, perhaps, Provo, zoom in, city centre, 300 West, West 200, West 700, and they go up to South 1000 West. So that's almost unique to this kind of region. They will have that kind of a street name, street sign. In Arizona, of course, things are going to start to get a lot redder. And redness is the theme of Arizona. You start to see the cacti coming in, and the red Sedona rocks, which is typical of Arizona. You'll start to see this type of architecture. Everything's red, everything you go is red, built on redness, and you can't escape from red if you're in that part of Arizona. If we zoom in, you can see a nature reserve there, and you see the Grand Canyon National Park is over here. So that's in Arizona. So if you think of red rocks, then you know Arizona. And Las Vegas, that's pretty easy to spot if you're in Las Vegas. And if you're in Sonora, we've got the cactuses. But if you're in New Mexico, you might see the cactuses as well. And you can see it's pretty dry out here in New Mexico. It looks like ordinary Mexico. You can still see the sagebrush, which is kind of a blue, which is everywhere in this region, which cuts it down to this part of the world. As soon as you see that, then it's kind of this part of the world. But like Texas, obviously you can have the road markings, but also you're going to see a bit of green. You see a few hills. You can see buildings with roofs on them and not flat buildings with flat roofs, and 1 or 2 kind of northern trees dotted around. So that's New Mexico. If we look at Texas, if we look at it's way called Austin, Texas, let's just put it in there, then you'll see in Texas it's different again. It's drier, and the signs have got more on them. Again, we've got this weird 6,000, 8,000 thing going on, so that narrows it down. If you're in a suburban or in an urban area, hopefully you'll find where you can see these Texas bollards, but hopefully you'll find the silver fire hydrants, there they are, of this region of the world. Again, with the man and the woman with handbags, which kind of narrows it down to the Americas. 1900 Boulevard. So the silver fire hydrants are native to Austin and Dallas and San Antonio, but by the time you get over to Houston, they've changed colour again. So that tells you where you are. If you're over here, then Blue Ridge Mountains of Virginia, you're going to find more rolling hills everywhere, but it's not going to be peaks, and it's not going to be sheer cliff faces like the Rockies. It's just going to look green, and it's just going to look a bit hilly. So usually if we're in this part of the country, then we're looking at autumn footage right now, but if we typically zoom into the top part. Well, if you're in a big city, then that's not going to help, because big cities always tell you where you are. We really need to get out of the cities. So anyway, New York, is that where we are at the moment? You can see a slightly wider line here, white lines to each side. Speed limit 25. Tons of these things, but they're actually stuck into the ground here. You'll see they're all over New England. These things stuck into the ground, and these weird mailboxes as well. In California they have rows and rows of mailboxes, but here they are individual. Idaho, you might see a row of them, and you can also see a flag now sticking out of the fire hydrant here. But the reason I came up here is hopefully to look at the trees, of which this should be big and thick and more reminiscent of fir trees and maple trees. Bigger thick trees. Another maple. And looks like another maple. Tons of maple trees up here, but I can't find any oak trees, which are is that an oak tree? I think it is, isn't it? I think that is an oak tree. Not quite sure, I can't see. But yeah, if you see any oak trees, then you're bound to be up here. That's a bit weird. So you can just look at the trees for this part. If it's green, the trees are tall, then, and they're kind of mapley, then we're going to be in this region. You can see that they don't use barriers. It's back to the rope in this case. Not chain, it's a rope barrier. You can see these kind of bungalows. They're only one story high. They're very spread out, and they've all got kind of party election stuff outside of them. You can see very light yellow support ropes to the poles, and you can see very unique county logo. Let's see if the poles have anything on them. Not that I can see. But anyway, it should be a lot darker and not greener. You can see up here around New York, Vermont, New Hampshire, that kind of place. So Manitoba, if you see any of those silver birch trees, which again I can't find because I'm in the middle of stupid nowhere, but you should find loads of silver birch trees in Manitoba, as well as lots of lakes as well. And if you're in Ontario, then you'll probably be on this road that runs up here. But if you see any Ontario signs, then it's best just to click in the middle of Toronto and have done with it. So let's see if we can see any. We're looking for a speed limit sign on one of these, and that'll tell us that we're in Ontario. These are pretty typical for Canada. You can read it on the dustbins. Ontario, we can see red, and we can also hopefully see if we can get rid of this hiccups. Some deeper yellow supports. We can see loads of numbers there, but that's what I'm looking for, because these signs will usually have a speed limit, and it usually has a black thing underneath it. It's usually attached to the sign, but if you can see a speed limit with a black thing of any description under it, then the best thing to do is to click on the capital city and just have done with it. And obviously I can't see any now that I'm looking, but usually you'll just be heading down a road, you'll see a speed limit, it's got a black bar under it, so you'll just click straight away on the the capital city. You'll also find black, and these are pretty unique as well to this state. If you see them, then you're obviously in Ontario, which leads you all the way down to Toronto. You'll either be in Toronto or Ottawa, and if you start to see French, you'll be in Ottawa. If you see big French, then we're in Quebec, because that's where they speak French. They don't tend to like the flags here in Quebec. You won't tend to see many flags of Canada because they don't like it. They'd rather speak French. You can see friends around those poles. So they're different again. And I can't see what I'm looking for. Ah, there you go. There's a fire hydrant sign next to the fire hydrants, which is basically unique to this. So if you see a fire hydrant, not necessarily with a woman next to it, then that tells you where you are with that thing. And you might see plenty of French dotted around. District Marie l'Incarnation. So that's typical for this region. French will have its own unique poles with the yellow on them. Usually a yellow around here. That's another fire hydrant with a stick and a fire hydrant next to it, so you can't really get that wrong, which means we're in Quebec. If we're further around, if we're in New Brunswick, and let's see if we can see anything at all that tells us we're in New Brunswick. And let's see. So the tops of the poles will have a side middle part on it like that. In New Brunswick, that tells us. You'll see that in other places as well, but that middle part of the pole helps to tell us 30 kilometres there, written in really dark yellow. In New Brunswick they start showing you the Canadian flag again. It's got the barrels on the side of the thing facing the road. They're not facing anywhere else, and there's only one of them. Things hanging off the signs. The silver birches. And it's a bit darker because we're on an island away from things. You can still see that this is either Maine or something like that. Ah, these arrows there, that tells you it's more or less unique to this region. Let's see. All the insulators will be different depending on the region you'll be in. All the barrels will be different. All the tags on the things will be different as well. So NB, it's not easy to find where you are in NB, but these barrels give it away. You won't find these anywhere else in the world. You're not in Finland, you're not in the middle of China. That barrel can only be found here in this region. That barrel. And some of the signs have a white arrow pointing towards them. The skier poles will be on a flat thing once we get to New Brunswick. I can't see any. Kind of rusty poles. Probably blue street signs, although I can't see any. Yep, there they are. That distinguishes them because they're blue and not green. So there are things to get. And if it was on this little island, it'd look the same, only everything's red. And in Nova Scotia, it's looking pretty similar, but we have different bollards here, Nova Scotia bollards. We've got another one of them with a flag, but the flag has got 3 on it with a black top, which is unique. Nova Scotia. Won't tend to see much in the way of woodland out here. Pretty similar stuff, but I can't actually see. Well, this flagpole, start to see that with the thing that's on the side like that. You start to see that around in Nova Scotia, and you see they're everywhere. So it's a good thing looking at flagpoles. Has that got the flat skew? No, it hasn't. But it has got them raised. You'll definitely only see that in places like Nova Scotia, because to get a lot of bad weather they have to raise them off the floor. And that was a flat skier that you saw on that pole. That tells us where we are. And these as well. So that tells us that we're in Nova Scotia. So we've more or less covered everything in the game now, it looks like. Covered Canada, America, Central America, all looks the same, Kansas and Nebraska. If you're in the Midwest, you know, they'll all have the different license plates and things like that. Different things to look out for. If you're in Oregon, for example, if you're on a main road, the lines in the middle will be split up. Big thick line in the middle of the road. You don't find that in too many places. If you're in Mississippi, well, I don't actually know much, but you can see similar kind of things in Mississippi. It's kind of a wider double yellow line running down the middle of the road, which is wider than normal. It doesn't have, in California you'll have a cat's eye either side, but here you'll have it in the middle. And you can see it's dry, it's looking quite Texasy, but you won't see any silver fire hydrants, which means it's definitely south of the country. You've got those wide lines, and in the south you don't even bother with front license plates, so you won't even find any. So even new cars and cars driving around won't have any. That tells you that you're in the south of the country. They get smaller and they disappear as you go further south in America. So if the license plates are disappearing, that gives you a heads up. So that more or less covers now all of the world in Geoguessr, so that it gives you a heads up of where you are. We haven't covered Vietnam, but that's got a very unique language to it, which will be split up usually into 2 or 4 words in a line. So in that one it's 2 words, and that one is 4, and they'll all be short words, and they'll all have these weird things all over it. Vietnamese is very easy to spot. It's a unique language. They'll be using these bikes with those helmets. You see them everywhere. And another tuk-tuk kind of thing. But yeah, Vietnamese is definitely a language which is easy to spot. So it's easy to spot if you're in Vietnam. They might even tell you the town on the sign. So Pan Van Hai, and we're in Ho Chi Minh City at the moment. No, it's not telling us anything. So that's pretty easy to spot. If we're in the Philippines, which looks like I've missed, then you'll get the tuk-tuks everywhere, and they are very special and unique tuk-tuks. If I can get to a road, because it's almost like a motorbike and sidecar in the Philippines. The Philippines tuk-tuks are everywhere, and they are unique kind of to the Philippines. No, the tuk-tuks look like that, and it looks like here we are. It's a kind of motorbike and sidecar affair. So if you see tuk-tuks like that, which aren't tuk-tuks, then you're in the Philippines. You can see a Philippine flag, National Archives of the Philippines, and most of the roads in the Philippines will be concrete blocks, so if you drop it anywhere, tuk-tuks again, and I can't see any concrete blocks. You'll only find concrete blocks. Yeah, you find these weird ones we can climb in the back. The concrete block roads you can only find in Thailand and in the Philippines. Not that I can find any anyway, because all this is paved road, but there should be those concrete blocks there on the road. You only find them typically in the Philippines. And the bikes, everybody drives around on bikes, and these weird tuk-tuk things, that's definitely a Philippines thing. So hopefully you can't get that wrong. In Taiwan we'll have big long black and yellow stripes on all of the poles, which gives it away that you're in Taiwan straight away. Also they'll be speaking kind of Chinesey kind of a language in Taiwan, and it's very colourful, as you can see. And Taiwan taxis there, and obviously we can't find any poles now that I'm looking for them. There you go, which are long, and they usually go all the way down to the bottom of the pole. But if we look at South Korea, hopefully if we find an urban area that isn't out in the middle of nowhere in South Korea, that isn't in the middle of an urban area, you should find the utility poles. Well, again, I can't find any, but this is South Korea. You'll find Korean language, which looks like a man at a desk at a computer. So you see a man there at a desk and a computer. So you'll see all this blocky stuff. You might see androids as well, which is where the Android phone comes from. So can't see anything on here, but the writing is unique. It is formed out of circles and straight lines, so it's very hard to get South Korean wrong. It's usually a monitor on a desk, something like that, or an Android. And of course, now that I'm in here, I can't find any poles. But I think that I'm being so unlucky at the moment with the footage that I've managed to get in every single case, in every single region, that I can't actually show you what I want to show you, because it's not letting me. It's supposed to show me, but I can't find them. And then the other place, the only other place, is Japan, and they've got poles which have black and yellow stripes running down them. Of course this one doesn't. Of course it doesn't. But everywhere else on the planet, in Japan, you will see pole stickers, and that usually tells you where you are, because the poles is supposed to have a sticker on there. Sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't. The poles also have plates on there, and that looks like, can't actually read it. Looks like somewhere in the centre of the island. But anyway, the poles is supposed to have markings on them. On the North Island, you can see it contains plenty of black. If If it's grey, it'll be over here. If it's long, then it'll be over here. If it's short, then it usually means it's in the middle. And the pole plates as well, obviously, if it's got a kind of a sun ray on it, you'll be in Chubu. If it's got middle information, you'll be in Chugoku. If it's got tons of information piled up, you could be in Hokkaido, or you could be one of these Kyushu islands down at the bottom. So that gives you help, and also the region numbers from the phone codes. If you can find a phone code, if it's less than 16 or less, then you'll be on the North Island. Otherwise, if it's up to 50, it'll be up to there, and if the phone code's up to 99, then you'll be on that side of the planet. So let's just give that a quick look just to see if I can get any of that to work. So around here the phone code would be perhaps in the 90s. It's difficult to find a phone code, but if you did, then you should be able to pinpoint the location. But I can't see. Well, the poles have got those two reds, those two stripes. Those are the things that I've talked about on the bottom of the poles. And finally, I can't see what I'm looking for. 3. So that might remind you of California, but you also find them down here as well. So I didn't see any area codes. So that tells you about Japan, and that's basically it in the game. So we got let's go back to the game itself, and let's see if we can work out where we are from the game, because there are tons of things that I haven't told you about that are important to know in the game, and most of the things I haven't actually talked about in this particular thing. So you can see where we are now. Kilometers. We're in the shit cam. We've got a double yellow road. We got palm trees. So this is reminding me of maybe Cambodia. Let's see if we can find a sign, and it says Norte E49. Well, it could be Cambodia, or it might not. Let's just click on that anyway and see. And it was actually Ecuador. That's fine. So now we're going to have a quick game. I'm going to have a quick game just to see how badly we do. And this isn't going to go well because I'm recording it. But let's just have a quick duel anyway. It's against a 700 player who's 25% better than I am, everything. So there's a good chance that I'm going to miss this. Anyway, we have got a yellow marker in the middle of the road. We have got those blue and those red and white. We have got the Colombian cross. We have got Colombia, so we're somewhere in Colombia. If we can get in front of this lorry, which is probably not going to be possible, it tells us that we're in Colombia, but he's sent a guess. So what we're going to do, we're going to stick it in Bogota, and let's see how far we were. And it was in the south of the country. He went in Bolivia. So this is looking quite alpine. We've got well, I can't see any yellow. Well, but I presume it's there. So it could be northern Spain. Let's try northern Spain. We've got the hills, but these black and white barriers Are they Spain? No, they're not. That's Albania. That's not too bad. At least we were on the right latitude, because sometimes latitude is all you need. This one instantly gives me Canadian vibes, although I don't know where in Canada. It's green, and it's got a barrel, so let's say around here. And you also find those in this island as well, St. Pierre and Mikkelsen, or whatever that is. You also find those barrels in that kind of a region, which we've already seen. Now we're looking at Cyrillic language, so that must mean it's Russia. We're looking at Mongolia, which we haven't covered. This is the Mongolian car. It's pretty, well, it's absolutely unique, because you won't find another car with a tent on the back of it. So all we can do is to click in the middle of Mongolia, which is a very wide open landscape with nothing much going on. You can see all this spread out for miles and miles and miles, and it's quite deserty in fact as well, which is typical for Mongolia. So it ended up being just to the north. And now he's down to a bit health. So we're in Europe. We can see the European license plates. We've got a Mercedes there. Not looking good as far as clues, unfortunately. Somewhere in Europe we've got that paving again, which reminds me of the Netherlands, although it's probably too hilly for the Netherlands. But I could be wrong, because this is very Netherlands. Let's see if we can see anything. He's got his knee bent, so this is either, well, it could be Netherlands or it could be Austria. So let's see where it was, and it's actually Latvia. Good going by him. Latvia, very difficult to get. Not one that I went over in the thing. Calle. So this is already looking like Spain. I can't move to where I want to go. And you can use the arrows, which is just as well, because sometimes this thing's broken. So we're in Spain. It's looking pretty south Spain, because we can't see any greenery. We're stuck in the middle of a town at the moment, and it could be, well, it's looking too Spanish to be Chile, and we haven't got the Chile car. We've got the 8 segments on the crossing, which means we're in Spain, but I can't see anything which pins it down further than that, unfortunately. Municipal Casa de Cultura Centro Social Botanica. That's not telling me anything except that we're in Spain. And sometimes the vans can help us, tell us where we are. But sometimes the vans can disappear. Well, he's gone for Spain, so let's put it down somewhere. I reckon it's going to be over here. And in this case, he was closer. So, I mean, it's got to be southern Spain, but narrowing it down to an actual place is pretty difficult, unless you've got the name of it. So, that could be a Cretan thing. That's also Greek. He thinks it's Greece, Greece. So I'm going to put it in Crete, and I'm going to see if I'm right. And it wasn't, so that means we lose the game. But it was a good gamble because we did have that Cretan aerial on there, so it was a good game. Let's go through as rounds. First one was Colombia, which I got. Second one was Albania, which I didn't get. Albania always has water things on the roof, and of course, because we're nowhere near any civilization, I couldn't see any of those roofs, those water things on any roofs, so I can't actually play the game unless I can see that, which is typical. But usually if you were in Albania, if I can find anywhere civilised, which I can't, you will have water tanks on the roof which are Albanian. Terrific. Which gives it away. 3, we found Newfoundland with those barrels. 4, we found Mongolia because of the Mongol car. 5, we didn't find, unfortunately, Latvia. You can see these houses remind me of Denmark, but the pavement reminded me of Holland. It's very difficult unless you can find any language, and trying to find language in the heat of battle in this game is pretty difficult. So we didn't get that. We both got the Spain and we both got the Greece. So that's another duel, which I'm probably going to lose. But if I find an easy player, then it's going to be nice and easy. So let's see. Sir Lautrec from France. Pretty equal. So let's see. This looks like, well, with the footage, I'd probably hazard a guess. If I can actually look at the sign, which I can't. It's looking pretty Cambo to me. No, that's Philippines. We've got concrete pavement road. We've got the motorcycle sidecar. But what part of the Philippines? Concrete of farm to market road. General San Jose Agency. San Jose. Well, no idea. Let's just see if we can see San Jose on the map, which we probably won't be able to find because I'm doing it live. But usually if you could find somewhere like San Jose, San Miguel, San Fernando, San Mateo, Santa Cruz, Santo Tomas. Well, I can't find it. I can't find San Jose. So I'm just going to put it near Manila. Because it's only round 1, there's no multipliers involved, so it doesn't really matter if we're halfway around the world. But because we've got these concrete pavements, we can't be too far away from the Philippines or Thailand. And of course we're either in the Philippines or Thailand. Now, red buildings, that means we're in Sweden with the thing, and the red buildings are more typical probably of Sweden. We've got the tall, well no, we've got the fat boy actually. Strange. Well, It's looking fairly northern, to be honest, looking at this. And fairly northern Sweden isn't good at the best of times, because it looks very much like Iceland. Let's see if we can pin it down. Greenland's bicentre. GL. GL? We're not on Gotland, are we? We're not on Gotland, are we? Let's have a look. Gotland. GL. Weird. Weird. Desru Hoto. Desru Auto. Heli Gronlands. Heli Gronlands. Where could that be? Well, I'm presuming it is Gotland with a GL. But apart from that, I have absolutely no idea. So I'm just going to stick it in there. If it isn't Gotland, then it's pretty crazy. Maybe it will be. But I'm just going to guess now. That all with it slashed out is usually for Denmark. You find that all over Denmark, everywhere. Sometimes you find that also in Denmark-owned countries like Greenland. So GL, Greenland, not Gotland, Greenland. So that tells us something, doesn't it? That tells us a great deal. Here we are again with the A-frame poles. You can usually find that stuck out in the middle of Central Europe. Also Romania. We've got thin poles, which remind me of Poland. So that means we're probably in Poland, even though it's looking very, very, very not. We can either only be in Hungary, Poland, or Romania. And if we're in Romania, it's pretty difficult to tell, but especially not being able to read the signs. So, well, we're in one of those countries, and I can't pin it down to Poland because it's looking too hot. Even though we've got everything else, I can't necessarily pin it down to Poland because I can't see any crossing signs. Ah, there it is. We're in Poland. We're in Poland then, I guess. So, is it looking north or south? Well, we'll never know. PL Poland. We've got the letters crossed out, which is Poland. The T's crossed out, the L's crossed out. Mazowski, no idea. I very much doubt that we're going to find that anywhere in Poland. We've got, well, kind of hills to the south, if that helps us at all. And not much else. We're now leaving a town, which we'll see leaving town signs in Poland. It doesn't tell you where they are. You have to look again. So let's look again. We're now leaving. What does that say? Pusksa. Gotsaze Putska. So there's a minute chance that I might find that on the map. You never know, because Plodska's over here. But apart from that, it's looking very much like we aren't going to find anything, and we aren't going to get a road number either. So that usually means we could be anywhere of which we are, so I'm going to plonk it in the middle. Hope for the best, because I have absolutely no idea. And it was actually all the way over there, so we were closer. Wizuki. And it was all the way over there, so if I'd have put it on there I would have won the game, but we didn't. So we've got here red soil. It reminds me of Brazil. I think that was a monkey puzzle tree, I'm not quite sure. Todas, that looks, could be Spanish. So I'm not sure whether in Brazil or not. I can't see anything, but we can do one thing. Well, we can do two things. We can click on the flag and that will take us up the mountain back to where we spawned from, and then if we click on the arrow and hold down the enter key, that will put us into fast travel. If we press the space bar, that will put a guess down wherever we are. Parque Nacional, that's Portuguese when you see park like that, which means we're probably in Brazil. The Serra. Canastra. Are we in Serra? Well, let's just have a look at Brazil. Serra with a C. So we're probably not in Serra. Municipal Canastra. Well, Brazil without a region code or a phone number is pretty difficult. In the extreme, we're surrounded by hills, so that could mean we're in Mato Grosso. Because those are the hilly parts of Brazil, I think. But I'm not. It looks like, well, it's not red enough for Mato Grosso, that's the thing. So where else could it be? Where else could it be? Are these hills? It's very difficult to see those on the map. It doesn't actually show you anything. Well, I think I'm just going to give it my usual Goiás hedge without any other information. If in doubt, go Goiás. So that's precisely what we're going to do. Because these games can last 2 million years if you don't do something about it. This is looking pretty weird. Could be Panama. No, we're all the way down there. Correct. So that means we win. And out of 20 games this week, we managed to win 8 of them. Less than 600 overall rating. So for that one, round 1, we got Philippines, which was very easy. We got Greenland, which we should have got, because I already said if this thing looks grey, it'll either be Iceland or Greenland when there's no actual trees on there. So that's my stupid fault. If there's no trees on there, we're going to be in Iceland or Greenland. So this is Greenland. It's almost unmistakable. Almost unmistakable. And if we looked out to sea, I'm sure we'd see those icebergs. So that was a mistake. And then we got Poland, and then we got Brazil. So this is the tropical bit with loads of trees. This is the red bit without many trees. This is the dry bit without many trees. And then you start to get more trees again as you go down south. So Goiás is usually my hedge. That means that hedge is all over the place. So it means we've got it. So that means we can claim our dual win. That means we get 90 coins. We've also got the daily challenge as well that we can play, which I got gold last time. Let's see if we can get anything now. And then I'm going to close this video down so that hopefully you can get back to whatever you were doing. So where are we now? Immediately, I have no idea. Let's see if these signs give me any help. And single white line might tell me on the dock. Single white line might be Canada, but I'm not sure if I like Canada at all. With this guess, I've got the yellow fire hydrants, which could be Canada. We've seen them before, if you remember. We've got the barrels facing the road. Let's see if any of these signs help us. King's Landing, no, it's not really telling us anything. Parking across the street. But it could be, by the looks of it, we could actually be back in Newfoundland. So I'm just going to put it over there anyway, and let's just see if we're anywhere near it. And well, it was just over the border. It was in Quebec. Well, it was actually in Ontario, but we weren't on the other side of the world. Here we go again with the motorbike and sidecar. Concrete pavement. We can only be in the Philippines, but because this isn't the typical motorbike and sidecar colour, I'm going for South Island of the Philippines, which is called Mindanao, and we were on the North Island called Luzon Island, which is fine. Now we'll find Arabic, and that weird Arabic. So we're looking at another shit cam. We're looking at, this is feeling very, if I can get somewhere in this game, this is looking very, very Lebanese. If I could find a pole, it would help. There it is, that rusty Lebanese pole. So all we're going to do is to put it in Beirut. That'll do. And it was in Tripoli, so that's okay. So the next one on. So we know that one. Now it's looking pretty alpine, and we've got the Swiss flag. So Switzerland. We've got low cam, which means it's adjacent to that guardrail. We've got this weird dotted thing, which is unique in the world. Swiss flags everywhere. Switzerland, low cam. We've got mountains to the north. And that's all it looks like I'm going to get from this. It's got these things around it. Campuano. Campuano. Well, that reminds me of Luxembourg, but it's not quite the same because we're in Austria. Well, no, we're actually in Switzerland, aren't we, with that Swiss flag. Campuano, though, sounds definitely Italian. So I reckon we're somewhere around here, somewhere in the Alps, around Italy, on the Switzerland side. If I had to guess, I'd put it somewhere around there. And it's actually around near Italy on the Switzerland side. We didn't manage to find it. It's called Dalpe. But we weren't a million miles away. This one, Greek, is it? Looks very different Greek than the Greek I'm used to, but it has got .gr on there. That's strange. We can have a look again for the well, it has kind of got it. So I'm still not sure if we're in Greece or if we're in Crete. It's got the Greek flag everywhere. It's not helping me. But if it's a different Greek dialect, surely it must be Crete then. We've got the Crete antenna. And we're in Greece, but are we actually in Crete though? That's the thing. Hold on, what does that say? Does that say Heraklion? Does that say Heraklion on that? I don't know. What's that say? That's not telling me anything. I don't know. Anyway, let's just go for Crete again anyway to hedge it. We can only be north of this. It was actually on Naxos Paros. So we're never going to get it. But as I say, we're not a million miles away. That gives us a silver medal. And we got east coast of Canada, we got it. The Switzerland-Italian border, we got it. The Greek roulette, we got that. The Lebanon, we got that. And the Philippines, we got the wrong side of it, but we did get it. So that's how you play Geoguessr. And I hope you found that somewhat entertaining, of which I've probably forgotten most of the things that I wanted to tell you anyway. Particularly, well, the final two things, obviously the Kazakhstan car and the Kyrgyz car, and we haven't done Mongolia either. So Kazakhstan has got a unique Kazakh car, which looks like this, with a big aerial on it. It's got no surround at the back of it, it's got no toilet roll in there either. But what you'll find is plenty of Russian, and that means we're in Kazakhstan with this particular car, and that aerial on it. If we were in Kyrgyzstan, then it'd be a similar car, but it has, well, if we were looking at official footage, if I can find any official footage, it's a similar car, but it's got the barriers around it, which I call the Guat car, the Guatmobile. So it's the Guat car, but we're not in Guatemala. This is obviously Russia. You can see by the quality of the camera, the quality, the language, quality of the homes, quality of everything. We're in Russia, and this has got the Kyrgyz, the Kyrgyzstan car. And in Kyrgyz you'll find the O's are sometimes like the London Underground symbol. It's like an O, but it's crossed out in the middle. which I can't see obviously, but that differentiates this place from anywhere else on the planet. You see Trabants. So that's Kyrgyzstan, and that's Kazakhstan, and the other place is Mongolia, which we've seen already. The Mongolia car will have a tent stuffed on the back of it at some point, and that tent, no matter whatever it is, gives it away that we're in Mongolia. Even though you can see the Cyrillic, no other place will have a tent on the back of it. So that gives that away. So it's not too bad. You won't find anything in China. I'm still not very good at Russia, most of America. So that just leaves the Azores. Now you might get Azores if you can see any rhododendrons, well, any hydrangeas, basically at all, then you're in the Azores. As soon as you see them, just plonk it in the Azores, because the hydrangeas are the thing. You see them growing wild, you see them growing by the roadside, you see them growing in gardens, you see them just growing everywhere. And they've got like pink flowers. Well, those aren't hydrangeas. They've got big pink and blue bushes to them. And of course, now that we're in the Azores, I can't see a single hydrangea in any garden anywhere, even though they've got them lining the roads from the North Island to the South Island. I can't see a single blue or pink hydrangea plant on the Azores. But you can see it's really crappy footage and camera quality. So it looks like you're just going to have to Google what a hydrangea looks like, because the most famous country in the world with a hydrangea in every garden isn't actually giving me any hydrangeas. But that's where they come from, the Azores region. And then the other place it could be, well, it could be in Tenerife or the Canary Islands. Tenerife has got every palm tree known to mankind. Thick ones, thin ones, that kind, and that kind. So that looks like a date palm. Looks like maybe an oil palm. That looks like a fan palm. Basically, wherever you go in Tenerife, you find every palm known to mankind. That long tall one, that could be a poplar tree that you usually see in Italy. Long tall trees, poplar trees, very popular in Italy. But yeah, every kind of palm tree known to mankind looks like a date palm. You'll find that in the Canary Islands. You'll start to find these cactuses dotted around, volcanic landscape, and it's a bit like Spain, only on top of the volcano. So that's kind of the Canary Islands. It's all a load of volcanoes. So the other places I haven't covered, let's have a look. There's this place which has the non-chili car, and it's got the filled in bars. You can see the filled in bars. That island is the Dominican Republic. Those filled in bars are unique to that. If you're in Puerto Rico, then you'd be able to see hopefully the aerial hanging down to one side of the car, which you can only find in Puerto Rico, which you can't actually find. that's usually where it is. The aerial hanging down. If you're in, let's see, the British Virgin Islands, then you'll find different Google card. This is the white one, which is kind of unofficial, I think. British Virgin Islands. Pretty weird car. Pretty gloomy, horrible footage. Then if you're in the American Virgin Islands, then if we can find some official coverage, we'll find the red Google car, the lipstick red for Virgin, lipstick red Google car with the bars that don't quite go to the side. So that's how you know it's there. So, I mean, we've covered most of the islands now. We've covered most of what you're going to find in the game. So, them, Colo, Ecuador. So, there isn't really much now I can tell you about Geoguessr, as long as you remember those few little details. The Oman aerial, the languages around here, the language around there, the follow car around here, the periscope, the three lines in the middle of the road, the red soil, the typical Australian red tab barrier on the side of the road that you'll find virtually everywhere in Australia, except for wherever I click in this particular footage. But you will find those everywhere in Australia. So thanks for watching this, and I hope that has introduced you to the game Geoguessr, and maybe we'll see you again in another video sometime soon.